The daily life of a secret agent in American TV series. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 276 Return to Daily Life. A week after the Chicago Avengers incident, the heat of this political scandal that shocked the whole United States has gradually subsided. Some people even said that Robert was the reincarnation of Hitler and planned to occupy the United States to start the Third World War. What amazed Ron the most was that there were still quite a few people who believed in this statement, which made Ron sigh again that happy education was harmful to people. Don't disbelieve it. Although the United States is recognized as the world's first technological power, the ignorance of ordinary people will still surprise you. Even today, many people still believe in the flat earth theory and keep trying to prove it from various weird angles. In Sheldon's words, it is childish and ridiculous. Howard, do you want to check the equatorial mount on the laser again? We have to lock it to the Sea of Tranquility. No problem, Sea of Tranquility? There is still a place called this name. Ron ate snacks and complained, not knowing why. Tonight, several little Atticus planned to launch lasers at the moon. Ron was bored and followed to watch the fun. That's the name of a place on the moon. That's where Apollo landed when they landed on the moon, astrophysicist Rajesh answered. But he didn't look at Ron, but stared at the apartment building opposite through the telescope. Hey, Rajesh, I told you a long time ago that if you want a woman, you can just disclose your identity as a rich Indian and countless chicks will line up to date you, instead of jumping back and forth on the charge of voyeurism like you are now. I didn't. Rajesh's face flushed. I was just watching someone else's TV. It was playing The Good Wife. This is the show I've been following recently. Ron rolled his eyes. Okay, maybe you don't need a woman, Rajesh. I have a cousin named Michelle. Party? I love parties the most, Rajesh agreed excitedly, but immediately realized something was wrong. Wait, what did you just say? Rajesh shrugged and decided not to bother with Ron. Hey, do you know who else wants to see this experiment? Leonard gave his answer without waiting for others to answer. Penny. How come I didn't know that she likes to explore the moon? Although I can be sure that the reflector left by Armstrong on the moon does meet Penny's shiny aesthetic standards. Sheldon, it's not just Penny. Almost all women have a special preference for shiny things. Ron corrected. This characteristic has been written into paper by a Chinese netizen, called 16 Commonalities Between Women and Birds. If you are interested, you can take a look. It will definitely help you pick up girls. Really? Rajesh's eyes widened. If you don't count one-night stands, he is the only one in the four who has not tasted the taste of love. Even Sheldon has been chased by women who are attracted by his excellent appearance, inherited from the Cooper family. Of course it's true. The author of the paper is a Chinese named Lu Xiaobu. It is said that he brings different women back to spend the night every week. It's just that the paper is written in Chinese. Maybe I will pay someone to translate it into English later, Rajesh shouted excitedly. Don't forget to send me a copy when the time comes. Leonard didn't have that much spare money to spend on this, so he decisively chose to be a freeloader. Ron asked in confusion, why didn't you call Penny up? I don't know. We've been a little weird since last time. Did she dump you? She didn't dump me. Leonard jumped up like a cat whose tail was stepped on when he heard this. We're just in different positions in this relationship. Well, you were dumped, brother. On the third day after Ron left, Leonard broke up with Penny. Leonard still hasn't figured out the reason, but Ron knows one thing, that is, no matter what, the two will eventually get together. Ron suggested, you should call Penny up. Maybe it's a good opportunity to repair the relationship. Good idea. I'll go right away. Leonard ran downstairs without waiting for Ron to finish. But what Ron didn't expect was that not long after, Leonard not only brought Penny up, but also brought a man who has about the same height as Ron as a buy one get one free offer. Ron covered his face in embarrassment. He forgot about this part. Penny's new boyfriend Zach. Or maybe it's more appropriate to call him a friend. Ron didn't bother to pay attention to Zach, but Zach approached Sheldon and asked questions like he had found a new toy. In order to save the situation, Leonard could only introduce the experiment to them awkwardly but politely. Of course, the main person to be introduced was Zach. Penny came here every day to eat with her. It was normal for her scientific knowledge to crush an ordinary person. But what Leonard didn't expect was that when he introduced the experiment to send a laser and return it to the receiver, Zach asked that classic stupid question. I have another question. How can you be sure it won't explode? Explode? What explosion? You mean laser? Leonard was stunned. No, it's the moon, Sheldon, you're too heartbreaking. Ron quickly pulled Sheldon aside to prevent him from making any more shocking remarks. Fortunately, this embarrassing scene did not last long. The laser experiment was completed quickly, and Penny hurriedly took Zach away. Zach's performance made her a little embarrassed, especially when facing Leonard. Chapter 277 Croissant Donuts. As soon as he got back to the apartment, Sheldon said goodnight and went back to the bedroom to sleep. Without a specific schedule, Sheldon's biological clock was even more accurate than an atomic clock. After a while, Sheldon's snoring could be heard in the bedroom. Leonard, the only way for you to accept that Penny has a new lover is for you to find a new girlfriend too, Rajesh made his unreliable suggestion while sorting out the experimental equipment. Howard, who was extremely interested in this topic, followed suit and expressed his thoughts. He's right. If you like, I can introduce you to the new dating website I found. But Leonard was not interested in this. No, thank you. Are you sure? They said they can introduce anyone to someone. Did they introduce you to someone? A lot. 8 last month, Howard said proudly. If you count the girls who ran away as soon as they saw me, there are a total of 12. Ron looked suspicious. If I remember correctly, Howard, you seem to have a girlfriend, right? What happened between you and Bernadette? Were you dumped too? Ron found that he seemed to have missed a lot of things when he went out to perform a long mission. How is it possible? Howard shouted. But you know, after all, a man as quick as the wind like me will never give up the whole forest for a woman. Well, you were dumped, Ron concluded. Hey, we are talking about Leonard's problem now, okay? Ron, you know so many women. Have you ever thought about introducing some girlfriends to your friends? Howard quickly changed the subject. In an instant, 3 pairs of wolf-like hungry eyes were fixed on Ron at the same time. Ron spread his hands. Please, I don't have any female friends who I plan to break up with recently. Or if you are not afraid of breaking the law, you can ask my niece Alex. They are nerdy and there must be many good girls like him, although the laws in the United States on drug control are no different from a piece of toilet paper, they are still very good in protecting children. Howard and Rajesh, the 2 perverts, shuddered at the same time and gave up this tempting idea. Leonard himself didn't have any expectations at the beginning. I'm not planning to find a new girlfriend yet. You two should just have fun on your own. Or if you're really bored, you can find something else to do. I'm going to bed. Good night, everyone. Leonard left sadly. Zach had dealt him a heavy blow tonight. If nothing unexpected happened, his pillow would probably be wet when he got up tomorrow morning. Do you know what's the most fun? The Indian looked mysterious. What do you think about us using that website to find a girlfriend for Sheldon? Forget it. Howard carefully looked at Ron's face. Fortunately he didn't find anything unusual, so he breathed a sigh of relief. However, Rajesh was still on the verge of death, testing frantically. Think about it, we can treat this as an experiment, just like finding a wife for a lonely Frankenstein. Howard frantically signaled Rajesh to look at Ron with his eyes, but the Indian became more and more excited as he spoke, and didn't receive Howard's signal at all. Frankenstein didn't find a wife, but created one with organs from corpses. Ron finally spoke, but I am quite interested in your idea. You can try it. If it succeeds, it must be a miracle from God. Imagine that a fussy old-fashioned scientist like Sheldon, with a young girl, looks like a comedy. Wait. Ron suddenly became alert. Could this be the opportunity for Sheldon to meet Amy? Ron asked carefully. What are you going to do? First, register an account on a dating website with Sheldon's personal information, if you agree, of course. Ron nodded. Then we will answer the questions on these dating websites according to Sheldon's usual language habits. Halfway through the conversation, the Indian began to tailor a blind date plan for Sheldon with Ron's tacit consent, and Ron went back to his room to sleep after watching for a while and finding it boring. But tonight is destined to be an uneasy night. Ron was halfway through his sleep when he was awakened by the sound of horse riding coming from the apartment across the corridor. The female chess player's shouting was so loud that almost the entire apartment building could hear it, which immediately made Ron lose all sleep. Ron glanced at the time. It was not yet 1 o'clock in the morning. According to past experience, this sound will continue for about 2 hours. It was not because Leonard was so strong, but because the female writer Penny was experienced. Even if it was a half-time break of more than an hour, she would fill this gap with self-entertainment. Ron simply put on his clothes again and planned to go out for a walk. At this time, the nightlife in Los Angeles had just begun, and the Williamsburg restaurant where the two sisters worked was still open. Since returning to Los Angeles, he has not met the two sisters because they are too busy. After the explosive business after the death of the rock star, the turnover of the small cake shop finally got back on track. However, when Ron came to the door of Max's cake shop, he found that this shop was a little different from the last time he came. Long time no see, my beautiful girl. Ron didn't even bother to cover up when Caroline was not around, and directly hugged Max's waist from behind. Where did you get such a beautiful coffee machine? Oleg got it for us. Hey. Ron, be careful. Caroline may be back at any time. Max said to be careful, but his head turned back honestly, and kissed Ron's lips fiercely in the morning. After a long time, they parted their lips. Where is Caroline? Why isn't she in the store? She went to find someone to buy a cake. There is a very popular croissant donut recently. Have you heard of it? Chapter 278 The Donut Thief and Amy. Except for your little cake, I don't really eat other desserts. Ron stared at Max's most prominent part and lied without blinking. Just when Ron was about to do something extra while Caroline was away, the door opened and Caroline came back. The two of them quickly returned to their normal expressions and stood up. Max, the guy with the croissant will be here soon. When he comes, we will play the good cop and the bad cop. Hi, Ron. Long time no see, Caroline said halfway before she realized that Ron was there too. Long time no see. What did you want to say just now? Good cop or bad cop? I'm not familiar with the cupcake industry. Has this industry become so inward-looking that it needs to play the good cop, bad cop trick to force confessions from customers? Caroline explained hurriedly. Of course not. I contacted a scalper selling cronets on the dark market. He will be here in a while. I asked him for 10 cronets, and he charged me $250. Max, then I got angry and said bad cop. At this time, I will play the good cop to mediate for them, and by the way, I will reduce the price to $200, Caroline added at last, and then she raised her smug little face with an expression as if to ask you to praise me. Ron was simply defeated by the innocence of these two beautiful girls. Although I don't know what the croissant is, I don't think it should be contraband such as drugs or guns, right? As for the means to contact drug dealers, then what should we do? I only have $200. Caroline reluctantly took out $200 bills and shook them in front of Ron. We don't plan to spend your money anymore. We already owe you too much. If Caroline wanted, when she was just in trouble, there were rich people willing to support her and provide her with a similar life as before, just on the condition that she would become a collection that could be shown off at any time. But she still refused. This is a woman with great self-esteem. No, I don't plan to pay for you this time. It's just that as an old IRS agent, I am willing to teach two rookies who have just entered the industry. Are you willing to learn? Ron blinked mischievously. No. I have always wanted to try the role of a violent policeman or a gangster boss. You must not take my role away, Max flatly refused. Ron had no choice but to agree. Okay, when you need me, just call me and I'll act as your subordinate. 10 minutes later, there was a rhythmic knocking sound from the window of the small cake shop. Caroline opened the door for him after receiving the secret signal, while Ron hid behind the door. He didn't notice that there was another person in the room besides the two beauties until the bread delivery boy came in. Quick and decisive, you are not the only ones who want to taste my donuts. The bread delivery boy spoke loudly as soon as he entered the door. Donuts. This word is very strange in English, and is often used to refer to things that have nothing to do with food. Caroline looked puzzled. You mean croissants? Of course not. My side job is ducks. Caroline rolled her eyes. Okay, let me see the goods. The bread boy immediately began to loosen his belt. Hey, she's talking about croissants, Max interrupted unbearably. Why didn't you say so earlier? The bread boy pulled up his pants and opened the box, revealing 10 beautifully shaped desserts inside. Let me have a taste. Max stretched out his hand and pinched a small piece and put it in his mouth, showing the expression of a drug dealer inspecting the goods. The goods are very pure. How much are 10 of them? Ron rolled his eyes. Isn't it just a few snacks? Is it necessary to make it like a drug deal? I quoted $250 before, but, bullshit. Before the bread boy finished speaking, he was rudely interrupted by Max. $150. If you want to sell it, if not, get out. Bitch, Ron knew that it was time for him to appear. He took off his shirt to reveal his strong upper body muscles, and stood behind Max to pose a fierce posture. He looked very stupid. But even so, the bread boy was still scared. Caroline pretended to be a peacemaker. Okay, calm down, 150 is really too low. How about this, you two take a step back and settle for $200, the price of this thing is going crazy tonight, eh? The bread boy wanted to say that he was going to raise the price, but when he saw Ron holding out his pistol and gesturing back and forth, he rationally swallowed the rest of his words. Max, in fact, the negotiation method can be simpler. Ron ejected 5 bullets from the cylinder of the revolver, leaving only 1 in it, and deliberately let the bread boy see it. Then he pushed the cylinder, swung it while it was still spinning, and closed the gun with a click, and stuffed the gun into Max's hand under the horrified eyes of the bread boy. Come on, dear Max, put this thing in his mouth now. That's right. Max immediately learned bad things under Ron's instigation, and put the muzzle of the gun into the mouth of the bread boy who was about to piss himself. What should we do next? Are we going to play Russian roulette with him? Yes, but it can be played in a more interesting way. Ron smiled kindly, turned his head and looked at the bread boy. Boy, listen to me, you want to make money, and we want to save money, so why not do it this way? Now the starting price of this box of donuts is $20. Every time Max pulls the trigger, the price will increase tenfold until you reach a price that satisfies you. How about it? The bread boy was speechless and could only shake his head in fear. Don't resist so much, you have 6 chances to raise the price. If you guess all of them correctly, you can leave here with $200, which is enough for you to worry about marijuana for the rest of your life. Ron said the most frightening words in the most friendly tone. Is Ron targeting him? Of course he is. Ron smelled the strong smell of marijuana when the bread boy came in. This boy was definitely a drug addict, and drug addicts were not human beings at all. Moreover, he dared to tease his girlfriend just now. Ron had to teach him a lesson. Caroline was worried, but she knew that Ron always knew his limits, so she did not stop him. However, she did not understand why Max went crazy. Max not only did not stop Ron, but excitedly urged him, "What are you waiting for? Ron, start." Okay, Ron imitated the auctioneer's tone. A box of croissants, the starting price is $20. Start now. Click. Ron pulled the trigger, but missed. Congratulations, sir. Now your donuts have increased in price to $200. Are you willing to play again? In order to make it easier for him to speak, Ron even took the gun out of his mouth. Immediately, the bread boy let out a scream like a pig being slaughtered. No. I'll sell it. I'll sell it now. The bread boy dropped the donuts, took the money and ran away. After he ran away, Ron opened the pistol cylinder again, and there was not a single bullet in it. Chapter 279. New aliens appear. Ron, who performed a classic IRS agent interrogation in front of 2 beauties, deservedly got the reward he deserved, and it was double. However, due to the strange relationship between the 3 people, the one with Max was conducted outdoors, and Ron was passive. Originally, Ron just saw that Max was too tired to make small cakes every day, so he planned to help them go out for a ride on the horse. As a result, Max woke up by herself, packed up simply and followed him, and the 2 of them rode on the horse together. First they kissed, and then everything happened naturally. The only one who suffered was probably Subao, who not only had to bear the weight of 2 people, but the 2 people were not honest on him. And Ron's only thought about this was, it turns out that what Bing Bing played in the movie is real. Horse shock, it really exists. Horse shock? What horse shock are you talking about? Leonard asked with a lustful face, interrupting Ron's thoughts. Who was eating breakfast in Sheldon's apartment. It's something like Ron made a cowboy whipping action on horseback, which not only expressed the difficult posture he and Max adopted, but also hinted at the movements of Penny and Leonard last night. It's a double entendre, and he is indeed a genius who graduated from Harvard. Did you all hear it? Leonard smiled embarrassedly, with a proud expression on his face. But man, there is something wrong with your walking posture. Generally, the walking posture will change the next day. I have only seen it in girls, and this is the first time I have seen it in boys. I can't help it, Penny, you know. Leonard smiled a little embarrassedly. If any man is physically exhausted, he will feel embarrassed. Not everyone has a body like a perpetual motion machine like Ron. Moreover, in addition to Leonard's weak physique, the good exercise habit of accompanying you every day is also another important factor that caused this result. Don't be embarrassed, My friend, you just don't exercise often. You can have dinner with me tonight, and I will take you to make up for it, Ron comforted Leonard by patting his shoulder. You mean the Chinese food supplement? Is that thing really useful? Leonard's eyes lit up. Obviously, she had heard about it from Howard a long time ago. Given their relationship, Ron was not surprised at all, of course, but considering your special situation, I think you need to eat more heartily. Roasted lamb whip, roasted kidney, roasted leek, roasted oysters, a little bit of each. Believe me, there is always something that can work. But then again, why don't I see Sheldon? He has some work to do today. It's about your exoskeleton armor design. There are some things that need to be calculated. He needs to do it. The project can't go on until he finishes it. So today, except for him, the three of us will be very idle. Howard and Rajesh will come over in a while. Ron nodded and didn't continue to urge them to finish the work quickly. He didn't understand the field of scientific research, so the best way was to leave it to professionals. No one was more suitable for this job than the four Atticas. However, Los Angeles is a weird place sometimes. Leonard just finished saying the names of the two people, and the door of the apartment was suddenly pushed open. Rajesh and Howard walked in with computers in their arms, looking surprised. OMG. OMG. Ron, you can't imagine what just happened, Rajesh shouted in a fuss. If it was your pants zipper that accidentally pinched your skin, you don't have to be so surprised. I have said that if it is too long, you can go for surgery and trim it a little. It will not only make it more beautiful, but also reduce the occurrence of diseases. For example, Howard next to you is a typical example. Ron spread butter on the bread and complained mercilessly. No, that's not what I'm talking about. Do you believe it? We have finally confirmed that there are aliens among humans. What did you say? Ron touched his lower back with a serious expression. No matter when, as long as Ron is still wearing pants, his gun must be placed there. This is one of the habits that Ron has developed since he confirmed that he has come to a world that combines multiple movies and TV shows. Who knows who he will meet and what he will encounter. Even if he met real aliens, it was not impossible. Based on Ron's impression of the movies and TV series he had watched before, he did not think that these aliens came to Earth with any friendly purpose. Look, we found a woman who is a perfect match for Sheldon on this dating website. Rajesh turned the computer screen to Ron. So it's this one. Ron quietly loosened the handle of the pistol. However, as soon as he breathed a sigh of relief, Ron immediately realized that something was wrong, and his expression became even more shocked than before. A woman who is a perfect match for Sheldon? How is it possible? Are you really sure that it is a real woman, not some virtual idol or something like that created by the website? Ron's defense was broken, and he suddenly became uneasy. Howard pointed at the woman in the picture and introduced, of course, look at her breasts. She's wearing a skirt. She has everything she should have. Believe me, guys, a woman with breasts is not necessarily a woman. You must not know EJ. Not only does he have big breasts, he wears a skirt and even often walks around in stockings. Howard asked in surprise, who is he? The son of Lakers legend Magic Johnson. Although he has a burly figure of 1.88 meters tall, there's a little princess living in his heart. Ron sighed. He had also been a victim of harassment by EJ. The charming look in his eyes made him feel sick. What should we do now? How do we ask this woman out? Of course we should ask Sheldon's soulmate out. I mean, judging from Sheldon's tone, you must have added her in this way, right? Ron took the computer and sent a message in Sheldon's tone. At the same time, he did not forget to thank the two Otaku scientists. Thank you for your contribution to the Cooper family. If Sheldon can successfully enter the marriage hall with this lady named Amy Fairfowler, you will be the benefactors of our entire Cooper family. Oh my God, this news is great. In fact, our whole family has long been prepared for Sheldon to live alone. Why will he live alone? Do you even need to ask why? Ron rolled his eyes. Think about it, if you two were ladies, would you choose to date a man like this? The two heads shook quickly. Chapter 280 Sheldon's Date. Ron sent a date message using Rajesh's computer and immediately received a positive reply. Without Ron's words, the three little Atticus immediately took the initiative to take on the task of getting Sheldon to agree to go on a date. Ron was of course happy to be free. How could Ron not know Dr. Amy Fairfowler? This was Sheldon's true love in the original time and space. Not only did she marry Sheldon, help him win the Nobel Prize, but she also gave birth to a son named Leonard for him. She even changed Sheldon's personality, making this robot more humane and more like a real person. You know, even Sheldon's mother, Ms. Mary, didn't do this. Although Ron has never believed in bullshit love, this time, he had to sigh, the power of love is really great. This happy news was so influential that even George, who got the news first, ran to Mary to ask for credit, and allowed him to drink 2 bottles of beer as a reward for the first time. You know, for the sake of health, George is now limited to only 3 bottles of beer a week. Ron, what does that girl look like? Do you think she will marry Sheldon? Mary asked anxiously on the phone, like all mothers who worry about their sons not finding a wife. Although she looks a bit like a nerd, maybe she will get along well with Sheldon unexpectedly. I sent the photo to your email. You can ask Missy to open it for you tonight. As for the second question you asked, I don't know, but at least she agreed to date Sheldon, right? At least, this should be a good start. Ron certainly knew that Amy was Sheldon's final destination, but it was too troublesome to explain how he knew it, so it was better not to say it. What about Sheldon? Did he agree to go too? Rajesh made an okay gesture to him, and Ron followed his gesture and answered, of course, the time is 3:30 in the afternoon. I'll tell you after the date, okay, Mom? Ron felt like the host of a love show, worrying about both parties on the date. After hanging up the phone, Ron glanced around the lab. Sheldon had already solved a problem that was hindering the project in the morning and was reading a book in a comic book store. Ron didn't think he would be in the mood to dress up. With Sheldon's personality, he would rather read comics for a while. Howard is the most hands-on person in the 4-member group, so he must not run around and stay. Leonard is an experimental physicist with good hands-on skills. He has long-term cooperation experience with Sheldon and can help Howard understand those formulas that Sheldon drew on the whiteboard. So, it was decided to be you. Rajesh, can you please take Sheldon to clean up for me? After all, it's his first date, and I hope he looks a little more normal. At 3:30 in the afternoon, Howard arranged a date for Sheldon in a coffee shop that looked ordinary. According to him, this can reduce the pressure on both sides, although Ron could not see any trace of pressure on Sheldon's face, only impatience. In a few minutes, after I have watched this blind date fail with a gloating look on my face, what would you prefer me to do? Sheldon walked in front reluctantly, I told you so? Or the classic haha expression, whatever you want to think. I promised Mom that I must bring you to meet the girl who is willing to date you today. Ron pushed Sheldon. In addition, I am also very curious about such a woman who the big data algorithm thinks is a match for you in every aspect. Hey. We can't conclude that we are wrong now, Rajesh argued unconvinced, but his tone was so weak that even he didn't believe it. Hello. I'm Amy Fairfowler. Are you Sheldon? Before Sheldon could speak, a woman with brown hair and glasses walked up from behind him. Sheldon turned around. Hello, Amy, I'm sorry to tell you that you have been fooled and deceived by a very stupid and naive intelligent algorithm to date a stranger. In addition, by the way, I came here because I was blackmailed by a hidden stinky sock, threatening Sheldon to go out on a date with stinky socks. Well done. Ron secretly gave Rajesh a thumbs up. If that's slang, I haven't heard of it. The woman spoke at a moderate speed, but each word sounded like standard pronunciation, giving people a mechanical feeling. If it's literal, I hate dirty socks just like you. Anyway, I'm here because I promised my mom that I would go on a date at least once a year. Interesting, I had the same conversation with my mom about going to church. Ron noticed that Sheldon's ears twitched unnaturally twice. Based on Ron's experience of being with him for so long, he would only behave like this when he encountered something that Sheldon was interested in. I don't oppose the concept of God, but I really don't understand why we have to call names when we go to church. It's the same as the page view statistics on the website. The latter is to exchange popularity for advertisers' dollars, while the former maintains user activity. Ron walked between the two. If Christianity is compared to a game, calling names is equivalent to the daily sign-in activity in the game. The difference is that in the game you can only get meager game benefits, while in the church you can actually gain the recognition of your neighbors. In the final analysis, it's all a psychological game. I say, do you have to stand and talk? Sheldon, do you want to buy this lady a drink? Okay, but before the blind date continues, I would like to state that all physical contact, including but not limited to sex, is not for discussion, Amy said seriously. If it weren't for the completely different looks, voices, and genders, Ron would have thought he saw another Sheldon. This algorithm is too accurate, right? Ron put himself in Sheldon's shoes and thought about it. If you were Sheldon, he would definitely like this girl, not to mention the real Sheldon. In fact, the genuine Sheldon has fallen. Can I buy you a drink? Sheldon extended his hand and made a gesture of invitation. Warm water, thank you. Oh my God, what have we done? Howard opened his mouth wide. If someone can create Skynet to destroy all mankind, there is no doubt that it must be their children. Rajesh, yes, we have become the sinners of all mankind, but at least now you are the benefactors of the Cooper family. Ron patted their shoulders. What do you want to drink? I'll buy you. Chapter 281 Ahan's Request. In Williamsburg restaurant, the owner Ahan hurried out from the kitchen. Max, Caroline, something terrible has happened. I'm in danger. You must help me. It's better than the last time you got stuck in a backpack, right? If it wasn't for Ron's demonstration, I couldn't believe that an adult's body could fit into a backpack. Max stabbed Lee Han in the heart. I'm serious. I'm in trouble. I just received an email. My mother said she's coming to see me. You still have a mother? I thought you became a human when a kid made a wish in a toy store. Caroline took over and continued to finish off the attackers. At this time, Ron just walked into the restaurant, greeted Earl in a cool manner, and walked straight to the bar. If I remember correctly, the movie was called Teddy Bear. The three of us watched it together. I seem to have heard that someone's mother was coming. Was it you, Max? No, it was Ahan. Caroline explained for Ahan and turned to ask, Han, your mother has come all the way from Korea to see you. Isn't this great news? Does this look like good news to me? Ahan's expression had collapsed to the point where words could not describe it. My mother thought I had a girlfriend. I studied Chinese and have a general understanding of Eastern culture. Throughout East Asia, the elders are extremely concerned about the love affairs of the younger generation. This is a normal cultural phenomenon and not surprising. I guess you just need to bring your girlfriend to have a meal with your mother and it will be done, Ron said very experiencedly. Ron, didn't you listen to me carefully? I mean, she thought I had a girlfriend. Lee Han opened his hands embarrassedly. I also sent her a photo and said that was my girlfriend. My mom's only hope for me is that I can have a happy marriage like her and dad. My mother just hopes her hepatitis C can be cured. Max interrupted. Ron carried Ahan to the high stool beside the bar like he was carrying a child, and comforted him. Is that the girl you have a crush on? That will be easier. I suggest you confess the situation to that girl and ask her to pretend to be your girlfriend. Believe me, most girls will be deceived by your cute appearance and agree to it. If you can make the fake play real and get the girl during this period of pretending to be a couple, it will be even better. The Chinese have a saying, called raw rice is cooked rice. Do you understand, child? Ron taught like a father. There was no way. Lee Han's image really stimulated his fatherly love. If Ron had a son of his own, he would definitely teach him in this way. What's more, no matter from which angle you look at it, whether it's his appearance or his figure, it's appropriate to say that Ron is Lee Han's father. Max and Caroline, the two beautiful girls, couldn't help but be intoxicated by this beautiful picture of father and son. Lee Han really couldn't explain it clearly, so he could only use his tablet to search for the photos he moved. Look, that's her, Korean beauty, Jin Huzhu, also known as Sapphire. Caroline's voice became higher and higher. Han, you actually chose a stripper. God, I don't know when you have been to such a place. Ron took the tablet, which was the main interface of the strip club, and the girl Lee Han chose was one of the recommendations on the homepage of this club. She is not only a stripper, she is also a dance teacher, and she has her own homepage. Lee Han blushed and defended. I also know 5 men. His business card says that his job is to give your rectum a good treat. Do you want to make a phone call and try it? Max made an obscene gesture with his hand. Lee Han lowered his head, not daring to look Max in the eye. The address of the club is in the information. You can go there directly to hire this woman to be your girlfriend. Caroline pointed at the tablet. I can't believe that one day I would say such disgusting words. I've been there, but the bodyguards there made me wait at the back of the street like other children waiting for their mothers to get off work. Ahan complained angrily. How forgive Ron. When he heard this, he laughed very unkindly, and laughed for a long time before stopping. Han, didn't you show them your driver's license, equivalent to a domestic ID card? Tell them that you are a real adult? Of course I showed them, but they said that my driver's license was picked up, and they said that if I make trouble again, they would call the police and ask them to find my mother to spank me. Ahan replied depressedly. His expression of embarrassment and his short arms and legs made everyone laugh again. "So, I hope you two can go there for me," Han begged. "Han, we won't do such a dirty thing for you," Caroline simply refused. "Going to a strip club and lying. This is totally not my scene. That was my original idea, but now, I have a better choice." Han snatched the tablet from Caroline and handed it to Ron, who was watching the fun. "Ron, my good friend, can you please go there for me? You look like the kind of person who goes there often." "Huh? I go to a strip club?" Ron pointed at himself in surprise and said unhappily, "Man, you don't think that with my looks, I need to go to that kind of place to get rid of loneliness, do you? As long as I walk on the street, there are countless girls who want my contact information." "Hey, Han, Ron is my boyfriend, and you actually want him to go to that kind of place?" Caroline was jealous. "Okay, I understand." Han raised his hand in a mean way. "Let me ask a question. Did I promise to let you use that room for free to sell cakes?" "Han, your trick is too mean, isn't it?" Max pouted in dissatisfaction. "Isn't it just rent? So what if I paid for them? I don't want to go to that kind of place anyway. It's not that I don't like to have fun, but I don't approve of the sanitary conditions of that kind of place from the bottom of my heart. No, Ron, we can't take your money. We already owe you too much." Caroline continued to maintain her cheap self-esteem. "Okay, I agree, but if everyone has to take off clothes together, I will definitely run away faster than anyone else." Ron sighed helplessly and rubbed Caroline's blonde hair. "Forget it, I'll go there. You know I can't let you go to that kind of place." After that, he did not forget to stare at Han fiercely, scaring Han so much that he quickly ran away. Chapter 282 Howard's Robotic Arm Incident. After Ron agreed to Han's request, he spent some time with Caroline before leaving, and did not stay for dinner. Because today's chef was a leg again, of course, Ron would not eat if it was someone else, unless the cook was Max. To be honest, if Han had not always taken good care of the two sisters, and Ron owed him a favor, he would never have agreed to his unreasonable request. Ron, an IRS law enforcer, how could such a decent person go to such an improper place? Ron swore that he would only go to such a place to take a look because he was helping Han, otherwise, he would never go to such a place in his life. "Ron, your Kung Pao chicken," with a mechanical squeak, a mechanical arm delivered the takeaway to Ron, interrupting his thoughts. "Finally, my own Mushu pork." Howard continued to operate the mechanical arm and delivered the last portion of rice to himself. "Great," the little Otacus burst into cheers. Howard said proudly, "The dishes are all here, gentlemen, a whole table of dinner served by robots, and it only took half an hour." Ron looked down at his watch. Half an hour had passed without him noticing. "With today's technology, it's pretty good," Sheldon concluded, "but we have to be careful. Why, today, robots can serve us Chinese food, and tomorrow they can send Terminators to travel through time and murder Sarah Connor." Sheldon continued to worry as usual. "If that day comes, I will immediately put justice above my own and kill you, the traitor among humans, and then blow its head off with a shotgun. So stop thinking about it and let's start eating. Also," Ron turned his gaze to Howard, "next time, don't use my exoskeleton mecha parts to do such stupid things." "Hey, Ron, this is not from your mecha. It was designed by NASA and is used to repair the extension arm of the International Space Station. It's super fun. Do you want me to ask him to get you something else? How about soy sauce?" Howard was in a playful mood and stared at Ron with a sharp eye. "Forget it, I'll have finished my meal by the time your robotic arm brings me the soy sauce." Ron rolled his eyes. "But this reminds me. Hasn't the progress of the mecha just reached the skeleton part? I wonder if I can add 2 more robotic arms to my mecha? The kind that can be controlled by brain waves, and may help me get 2 more weapons such as rocket launchers or micro-missiles." Ron started a new topic at the dinner table, which immediately attracted the group of tech geeks into discussion. Once a tech geek gets into the state, it's really hard to pull him back. Halfway through the meal, he took out the whiteboard and started to draw a new design on it. As a doctor of liberal arts, Ron could only quietly leave the apartment after dinner to avoid disturbing their thoughts. There is plenty of time to play games, but which man doesn't want to try driving a mecha in reality? Although this mecha is just a full-covered exoskeleton machine, and according to the existing battery technology, it can only support outdoor sports for up to 30 minutes, this point, even Sheldon's ingenuity can't solve. If you want him to move longer, don't even think about it unless you make a portable controlled nuclear fusion, Sheldon said. Ron felt a headache when he thought about this. You can't drag a long tail, wire, power supply behind her when she wears the mecha, right? While Ron was tossing and turning in bed, unable to sleep because of the mecha, Howard, who had already brought the robotic arm home, was having a great time. Oh, my god, it's so comfortable, Howard moaned comfortably under the massage of the robotic arm. Inspired by Ron, he discovered more wonderful uses of the robotic arm, and even forgot to go to his mother's call for him to eat. It's so cool, it's really so cool, just like a real human hand massage. As soon as he said this, Howard suddenly became energetic, turned his head to look at the robotic arm that was still massaging his shoulders, and a lewd smile appeared on his wretched face. Wait? If the massage feels the same as a real human hand, doesn't that mean that the robotic arm can also do many other things that human hands can do? And as long as you don't press the pause button, you can work tirelessly forever. Do it as soon as you think of it. This is one of the roots of Howard's outstanding hands-on ability. Howard opened the door of his room and took a sneaky look outside. After confirming that his mother was still eating downstairs, he retreated to his room like a thief and locked the door quietly. On the keyboard, after a crackling sound, a new program replaced the original massage program. Howard's smile became more and more wanton. He turned on the music in the room and lay down on his chair with his whole body relaxed. Opposite him was the robotic arm. Dong dong dong. Ron, who was about to fall asleep, was awakened by a knock on the door. Who is it? Ron walked to the door with a pistol in hand. It's me, Leonard, and Rajesh. Ron, can you come with us? Something happened to Howard. Hearing Leonard's voice, Ron felt relieved, put away his gun and opened the door. Howard? What happened to him? Don't tell me the lab was stolen or exploded. Damn it, if I know who did it, I will make him regret coming into this world. Ron frowned. No. Leonard waved his hands quickly. It's something else. It's related to the robotic arm just now. Robotic arm? Ron asked curiously. What can happen to the robotic arm? It's not really like Sheldon said. The robot started to rebel, right? If so, you just need to pull out his power supply. No. Leonard's expression suddenly became a little strange, smiling but not smiling, with a tense face, as if he was suppressing something. His robotic arm accidentally got stuck in a strange place. The robotic arm is stuck? Where is that place? It's right there. Leonard gestured with his hands, his eyes looking around, and finally, he pointed at Rajesh, who was standing next to him, and pointed at his crotch. It's that place. That place. Ron widened his eyes in surprise. How did he get the robotic arm stuck there? It can't be that he was bored at home and FXXK the robot. Chapter 283. I don't want to be a dad. Are you sure you slipped and fell into the robotic arm? When Ron and the other two arrived at Howard's house, Howard was sitting on a bed with a blanket covering his lower body. From under the blanket stretched a textured robotic arm, which was the NASA robotic arm that served the food on the table just now. Yes, Howard shook his feet awkwardly and nodded. And your XX just happened to fall into the hand of the robotic arm, and then it just happened to be held by it. Ron crossed his arms and looked suspicious. I seriously doubt that you also loaded it with a program to move up and down. Damn it. I don't want to eat any food served by this robotic arm anymore. It's not clean anymore. Yes, help me. Howard was so anxious that he almost cried. I wanted to suggest using lubricant, but I think you already have enough lubricant on that one, Leonard complained sharply, causing everyone to laugh. Except Howard. It's not funny. Leonard, really? A robotic arm is stuck in a key position of yours. Isn't that funny? If you don't believe me, just post a tweet and ask others. I dare say that this post will definitely be on Twitter's top 10 funny list of the year, and it will definitely not be at the bottom. Ron pulled the robotic arm with a smile, causing Howard to scream in pain and stop quickly. Tell me, how did you come up with such a creative way to entertain yourself, please? Ron, Leonard, Rajesh, Howard, I asked you to come here to help. Don't just stand there and talk nonsense. Find a way to help me get that thing out of the robotic arm before my mom comes in. Okay, let me see. Leonard just leaned over to the computer, and Howard shouted hurriedly, Stop. 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 Don't touch the computer. Why? The computer crashed. Then won't it be over if you restart it? Ron said, and his hand was about to press the restart button. No. No, Howard hurriedly called Ron. That will import the wrong original program, the program of the space repair arm. This thing thinks it is holding a screwdriver in space. If the program continues, it will start to screw. Howard made a screwing motion, and Ron imagined the scene of inserting the organ in his mind, and couldn't help feeling a chill all over his body. If he really let that thing screw, it would definitely screw it off. This is not a joke. Is this thing expensive? If it's not that expensive, or you can fix it, I can try to break it. Ron pulled out his pistol and proposed another solution: violent disassembly. No. Absolutely not. This robotic arm took me a month to design. The structure is very precise and can adapt to any space conditions. The cost of one is close to $5 million. Well, after a lot of nonsense, the last sentence is the key. Although Ron can afford $5 million, it is completely unnecessary to spend it on this. There must be a cheaper solution. Ron simply gave up and saw if the other two had any solutions. Okay, how about this? Rajesh came up with a solution. When Winnie the Pooh's head is stuck in the honey tree, his friends will hold him and pull him out whatever you want. I don't want to touch any other man's honey tree. Ron glanced at the blanket with disdain. After Howard rejected several suggestions in a row, his mother's voice suddenly rang out from outside the door. Howard, I made cookies for you and your friends. Thanks, Mom. I won't eat them now. I can bring them up to you and get you a bottle of Hawaiian fruit wine. No. Don't come up, Howard yelled nervously. What? Do you look down on your mother and feel that you are not worthy to appear in front of your friends? Mrs. Wolowitz's voice sounded a little aggrieved. That's true, but that's not the point. Howard asked his friends for help again. Help me quickly and think of a solution. Do you have any ideas? Ron looked at the other two. No, Rajesh spread his hands. My mind is full of cookies and Hawaiian wine. Well, there's only one way. Ron had no choice but to stand up and take charge of the situation. I'll go talk to Mrs. Wolowitz and hold her back first, and then you two find a way to get him into my pickup truck, and we'll take him to the hospital. Howard, remember, you owe me one. Ron glared at Howard fiercely. If it weren't for the wrong relationship between the two, and if Howard had been helping him with the research and development of the exoskeleton mecha recently, Ron would never do this. Probably because she had been abandoned by her husband for too long. Howard's mother was particularly enthusiastic every time she saw Ron, and even her enthusiasm made Ron a little scared. Recalling the interesting story between Howard's mother and Stuart in the original Time and Space, Ron had no doubt that as long as he nodded, he could immediately let Howard change his name to Dad. I don't want to be a father. What's more, Howard suddenly popped up such a big son. Ron swore that he definitely didn't have such an idea because Howard's mother didn't look good, and he didn't discriminate against the fat group. The nearest hospital to Howard's home was less than 10 kilometers away, and it only took 5 minutes to drive there. Leonard was holding a laptop, followed by Rajesh, who was carefully holding the mechanical arm and pulling Howard. Following Leonard's footsteps, he carefully followed behind. The three people's strange appearance attracted the attention of people in the hospital. In order not to embarrass himself, Ron deliberately lagged behind for a distance, so that others would not think that he was in the same group with the three guys. Don't pull too hard, Howard screamed, probably because Rajesh accidentally walked too fast and pulled his balls. I didn't pull it. You can handle it yourself next time this happens. Excuse me, can you help us? Leonard tried his best to signal Ron with his eyes. He could only reluctantly walk to the counter and greet the nurse on duty. Oh my God, what's going on? Even though the nurse on duty was experienced, she had never seen such a scene. I slipped by accident, Howard said again. What is this? The nurse lifted a corner of the blanket, and several patients were. Howard was so ashamed that he wanted to find a crack to crawl into. It's the arm of the robot. What about the other parts of the robot? I only made the arm, because it's enough, right? The nurse looked clear. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 284 Toretto's Trouble. Seeing more and more people gathered around, everyone had a smile on their faces, and Howard was ashamed and angry. Hey, can you help me solve this first? Okay, stay calm. The nurse on duty comforted Howard casually, walked to the counter and picked up the radio phone. Please ask the nurse to send a wheelchair over. There is a person with a toothpick stuck in the robot arm who needs treatment at the front desk. Originally, the other patients who were watching were just guessing, but the nurse on duty shouted, and Howard was immediately killed on the spot. Can't you be more subtle when speaking? Sorry, we don't have a code word for the special case of toothpick stuck in the robot arm. The nurse walked up to Leonard. Why is it still connected to the computer? It controls the computer, but the computer has crashed. So Ron signaled with his eyes, so it's conceivable what happened later. Have you tried shutting down and restarting? The nurse on duty proposed the same solution as Ron, and before Ron could answer, the nurse's hand had already pressed the restart button. No. 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 Howard's shouting was still a step too late. Ron could have stopped him, but as the nurse moved, he suddenly had an idea and his dormant memory was awakened. It seemed that Howard in the original time and space was rescued in this way. Sure enough, the computer suddenly lost power, and the mechanical arm immediately dropped and released its hand. Howard, who was no longer restrained, could finally stand up without having to maintain the weird posture of sticking his hips out. Winnie the Pooh finally escaped from the honey tree. Ron felt sick. Well, thanks to you, I plan to never eat honey again. The next day, early in the morning, Toretto, who had long since returned to his daily life, drove out alone to make a big purchase as usual. Originally, Letty wanted to go with him, but considering that he wanted her to sleep a little longer, Toretto did not wake up the beauty sleeping next to him, but when he drove to a remote path nearby, something unexpected happened. On the roadside, a slim woman was lying on the hood of a classic Beetle, fiddling with it, but she couldn't get it right. Toretto felt a little itchy. He hadn't repaired this type of car for a long time. He even felt a little nostalgic when he saw it. He simply parked the car next to him. Do you need help? Yes, I think so, the woman said, pushing her sunglasses. It looks like the oil needs to be changed, or there's something wrong with the solenoid valve. Let me see if I can help you fix it. Toretto checked it and roughly guessed. With his experience, he knew what was wrong with the car at a glance, but for the sake of caution, he would still carefully check the condition of the car before deciding on a repair plan. However, just when Toretto was busy repairing the car, the woman suddenly asked, "How is your retirement life, Dom?" In an instant, Toretto was horrified. This woman came for him. But his men were still checking the car steadily. Just then, he found the problem. Your fuel relay is missing. I know. The woman held up a small part and shook it in front of Toretto. Her intentions were obvious. Well, I usually like to play games, but I'm in a hurry today. If you have anything to say, just say it. Toretto carefully walked around to the side of his car, reached into the car through the window without making a sound, and quietly grasped his large wrench. This game is different. I promise you, what I'm going to talk about is something much more advanced than the game, but your destiny. The woman followed and walked around to Toretto, 2 fingers on Toretto's arm, all the way to the hand holding the wrench, and pressed it, and also grasped the other side of the wrench. I create my own destiny. Toretto's face was firm. Although he didn't know what the woman was playing, he was sure of one thing, that is, if he intended to seduce her, it would definitely not work. I want you to work for me. Work for you? Toretto laughed. It would save some time if you said it earlier. Listen, no matter what you represent, you come to talk to me, and the only thing I can answer you is that I don't work for anyone. After that, Toretto turned around and opened the car door to get in, but the woman's hand pressed on the door again. You can't escape this time, Dom. If you don't talk to me now, you will have to talk sooner or later. Unfortunately, Toretto still had no interest in his words. Do you think I don't beat women? You see, fate is so interesting. It is very cunning. It can bring you beauty, and it can also bring you this moment next. The woman said a long string of obscure lines that were difficult to understand. Toretto had no interest in it, but just felt it was troublesome. Immediately afterwards, the woman handed over a mobile phone. For some reason, Toretto took it back. There was a video on the phone, but the content of this video was too shocking. Even a tough guy like Toretto was stunned and couldn't help himself for a long time. You will agree to work for me, right? The woman chattered proudly. You will betray your brothers, abandon your principles, and even destroy your family, because your team is about to face the only thing they can contend with. What is that? That's you, the woman said, and installed the fuel relay back to its original position and started the car. The car started naturally. By the way, Dom, I won't tell anyone about what happened today. You can have enough time to think about what you are going to do. On the other side, at the same time that the mysterious woman approached Toretto, the anonymous person who rarely showed up took the initiative to take off the mysterious veil and came to Ron's office. Ron, I have a mission. No deal. Ron interrupted Anonymous rudely without waiting for her to finish her mission. Dear Mr. Anonymous, I think you may have made a mistake. I, Ron Lee Cooper, am a senior agent of the IRS. I have nothing to do with the CIA or the FBI. Even the Department of Defense has no right to transfer me. We are only under the jurisdiction of the Finance Department. While cleaning his gun, Ron said in a ruffian tone. However, speaking of the Department of Defense, it seems that we haven't been to the Pentagon for tax inspections for a long time. Do you want me to go there soon? Chapter 285, Ron, the Blame Master. The corners of the anonymous mouth twitched. Luckily he didn't get angry on the spot. Going to the Pentagon to check taxes? What a joke. Well, this kind of thing has happened before. Historically, the IRS has sent people to check the Pentagon's military spending many times. Of course, although it was a mess every time, in fact, no major problems were found every time. They could only entangle in small problems and then let it go. But the IRS did cause a lot of trouble for the Pentagon. It's about national security. I think I have the power to ask anyone to join in. In fact, this order is not from the Department of Defense, but from the National Security Agency. Anonymous took out an order and slapped it on Ron's desk. The name of the document is NSA. Ron, who was whistling and cleaning his gun with a relaxed look on his face, suddenly had a headache. NSA, the abbreviation of the National Security Agency of the United States, is the most mysterious intelligence agency in the United States. Because it is too mysterious, many ordinary people don't even know the existence of this agency. They themselves often joke that the abbreviation of NSA means no such agency. But in fact, no one dares to underestimate this department. Well, what's the matter this time? Ron reassembled the gun, put it back into the holster, and leaned back in the chair. Let me make it clear first, if this matter is too complicated, it may cause my PTSD symptoms again. If I can't serve the country, it will definitely not be my fault. Ron opened the drawer and pulled out a diagnosis with his name on it. Ron's diagnosis was war sequelae, which he had prepared for particularly troublesome tasks. Anyway, there is definitely no good thing when the NSA comes to the door, so Ron is taking precautions in advance. Don't worry, it's not a waste of effort. You just need to go to Berlin and bring something back from there. Seeing Ron's tone loosen, the anonymous finally showed a smile on his face. Because that thing is extremely sensitive and special, I will not give you any permission. Everything requires you to sneak in anonymously and then get the thing out. In other words, if I am caught by the people over there, you will completely sever ties with me and declare to the outside world that it was my personal behavior, right? Ron's eyes suddenly shot out a golden light, and he keenly grasped the key point of the question. His little trick was discovered, and Anonymous showed no embarrassment on his face. Yes, that's right, but if you can help us do this, I can promise you. Wait, Ron interrupted his persuasion. You mean this mission may involve fierce fighting, right? Yes, so. I don't know why my head suddenly hurts. Ron's expression was exaggerated, and he covered his head with exaggerated acting and shouted, it must be my post-traumatic stress disorder again. Sorry, I can't help you complete this task, Ron. We are already very familiar with each other. You have to help me. Anonymous skillfully took out an encrypted tablet from the assistant bag and handed it to Ron. Hobbs's intelligence is correct. The electromagnetic pulse weapon that disappeared in the Persian Gulf was taken to Berlin by the arms dealers of the Liberation Front. It can paralyze the entire power grid of a large city. No lights, no electricity, and instantly return to the Stone Age. Just think about how much damage this will cause on a modern battlefield. Hey, since this is Hobbs's intelligence, why don't you send that big guy to handle this? Ron spread his hands impatiently. This kind of thing sounds very troublesome, and he doesn't want to get involved at all. As the saying goes, if a friend dies, I will live. Ron immediately found the best person to take the blame from the words of the nameless man. You know that this matter cannot be handled by Hobbs alone. It requires a team, a strong enough team. The nameless man stood up and glanced at the members outside the glass window of Ron's office, one by one. The envy and admiration in his eyes could not be concealed. If he had such a team, would he still need to ask Ron for help? Just hand it all over to his capable man Hobbs and he can handle it. Don't even think about it. Those people are my men, but they are paid by the federal government. I don't care. They are my men, so no one can transfer them without my permission. Ron also stood up from his desk and yelled at the anonymous person. He knew that he had to bleed today, otherwise the vampire would never let him go. How about we make a deal? What deal? Are you going to lend me your phone? Only this matter is off the table, but we can talk about something else. Just now you said you needed a team, right? While thinking, Ron paced back and forth in the room. He had a very good target option in his mind, that is, Toretto and his group. Not only are they excellent in their own strength, they have also cooperated with Hobbs more or less in previous missions. I believe that if Hobbs leads the team, they will definitely be satisfied. However, he was worried that this group of people would encounter other troubles. On the surface, one side is a thief and the other side is an official, but Ron always regarded Toretto as his friend. Before he traveled through time, the 7th installment of the Fast and Furious series had just been released. Judging from the ending of the story, it seemed to be a very happy story. There shouldn't be any more twists and turns, right? Maybe this crisis is a story from some unknown action movie shot by Dwayne Johnson? Ron thought hesitantly. According to the ending of Fast and Furious 7, he really couldn't imagine what would happen if a sequel was made. Los Angeles had already been beaten to that state. If they were to make a prologue, they couldn't drive into outer space, right? Are you kidding? The screenwriter would definitely be beaten to death by fans for such a big idea. Thinking of this, Ron finally made up his mind. I can help Hobbs contact Toretto. You have met them before in Abu Dhabi. They are all good at playing with cars. I believe they can solve this task perfectly, but you must promise not to treat my friends as abandoned pawns, and give them a large commission afterwards. Of course, no problem. Anonymous agreed readily, so readily that Ron even thought that the real purpose of his trip was to persuade Toretto to come out of retirement. However, this thought flashed through his mind, and Ron threw it out of his mind, and took out his mobile phone and dialed a familiar number. Chapter 286 Howard's Breakup Truth. After sending the anonymous person away, Ron asked Howard to borrow a military satellite to track and watch what Hobbs was doing. Ron originally thought that a workaholic like Hobbs would either be training new recruits or leading a team to raid a drug dealer's den. As a result, the video uploaded by the military satellite surprised him. Hobbs was seen dancing strangely to another group of little girls on the football field with a group of little girls who were barely as tall as his waist. Ron watched for a while before recognizing that it was the New Zealand war dance. Ron was so scared that he quickly turned off the video. It was too hot to the eyes. However, Ron recorded the video and posted it on YouTube, which actually received a lot of likes. At night, in Ron's apartment, Ron, who had been slacking off all day, lay down on the sofa. Penny was walking around beside him, picking up the dirty clothes that were thrown all over the floor. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door outside. Howard opened the door and was standing outside. "Hi, Ron, I didn't expect you to be home too. I didn't expect you to come to see me in the middle of the night. What happened? Not enough funds for the research project? You don't need to tell me about this, just tell Andy directly. I told him that if the money is not enough, he will transfer it to you immediately." Ron invited Howard in, brought him a beer, and lay down on the sofa casually as before. "No, I'm not looking for you, I'm looking for Penny." Howard was a little embarrassed. "Penny, has Bernadette mentioned me to you recently?" "Of course, when you came to dinner together yesterday, she asked me why Howard was hiding under the table." Penny put down the basket in her hand and sat aside. "Hey, Howard, if I remember correctly, didn't you say last time that you wanted to be a playboy and play around with women? It's only been a few days and you're going back to your ex." No, I'm just asking casually, is she dating anyone recently?" "As far as I know, probably not." "Speaking of this, I suddenly want to ask, why did you break up in the first place?" "Yeah, I wanted to ask you this question too." Having gossip to talk about, Ron immediately perked up, rolled up from the sofa and stared at Howard with his eyes sharp. "I think it's better not to say anything, Howard. You know that even if you don't say it, I can get the truth from Rajesh. So do you want me to know the exaggerated version of the story told by the Indians, or the more reliable answer you give yourself?" Penny folded her arms across her chest and formed a united front with Ron. "Yes, Howard, if you want my help, at least let me know why you broke up." "Well, this is a bit embarrassing to talk about." "That's what I want to hear." Ron took out another bottle of beer from under the table and placed it in front of Penny. "Penny, popcorn, hurry up. How can you listen to gossip without preparing snacks?" "Wait, don't say anything first." Penny hurried to the kitchen, brought out a bucket of popcorn, walked out, put it on the table, and was ready to watch a movie. "Okay, you can talk now. This has to start with the World of Warcraft." "I know, it's the online game you often play. "What's wrong with it?" Penny interrupted, was glared at by Ron, and immediately shut up obediently. Howard continued to tell his bizarre past. "You know, the characters in the game can actually have sex with each other, ahem." Ron almost choked to death on a mouthful of popcorn. He had been through so many bullets and gunfire on the battlefield, but he was still unscathed. Today, he almost lost to Howard's vulgarity. "Oh my god, Howard, how horny are you? You even didn't let go of the game characters." Howard lowered his head in shame. "His name is Trollgrim Sinti, a hunter. When Bernadette came to find me, we were under the Bridge of Souls. You know, you can understand it, right?" "Ron." Penny turned her eyes to Ron, and her eyes seemed to say, "Do you boys usually do this kind of thing in the game?" Her butt honestly moved to the other side of the sofa quietly, keeping a distance from the two vulgar men. "Hey, what do you mean I can understand? I've never done anything like this." "Okay," Ron quickly defended himself, "I'm not the kind of freak who can only have sex with strange creatures online because I don't have the company of the opposite sex in real life." "Sorry, Howard, I don't mean to insult you. I'm just a little curious, what do you think?" "That's a troll. Even if it's an elf or a blood elf, I can roughly understand your aesthetic." Although the porn movies in Leonard, Rajesh and Howard's computers were all cartoons, Ron thought they were childish, but he never expected that Howard was the most perverted one among the three of them, with such a twisted taste. Howard pleaded, "Penny, can you talk to her?" "Who? Bernadette or the troll?" "Of course it's Bernadette." He was so angry with me that he didn't even listen to my explanation. "The question is, what's there to explain?" Ron rolled his eyes helplessly. He was getting more and more confused about why Bernadette would fall in love with a man like Howard. "You would rather fantasize about a troll on the internet than touch the woman who is with you." "What?" Howard was stunned for a moment. "Please, brother, use your smart little head to think about it. If a woman doesn't want you to touch her, why would she visit the home of a wretched otaku in the middle of the night?" A word awakened Howard from the dream, and he went from shock to ecstasy, and then turned into deep loss. "So you are like Xianglan Sao, repeating over and over again, 'How is it possible? How is it possible?'" Ron sat down next to him and patted his shoulder. "Howard, think about it carefully. I mean, don't report any fictitious elements. Take a good look at your situation. Your hairstyle, your wretched personality, especially your tight pants. Unless she wants you to take the initiative to take action, why do you think it could be?" "Really?" Howard sighed regretfully. "Oh my god, what did I do so early in the morning?" Ron looked up at the clock. "It's only 9 o'clock, not too late. If I remember correctly, Bernadette should be on duty today, right?" "Penny, yes, she is on the evening shift today and will not get off work until 12 o'clock. Penny nodded. "So, Howard, what are you waiting for? Why don't you leave now? Go." Chapter 287, Toretto's Betrayal. Germany, Berlin. Hobbs never thought that the terrorist organization would actually transport electromagnetic weapons to a military warehouse for safekeeping, and he had no idea about this information before coming to Germany. Now, Hobbs finally understood why the anonymous person said that if there was a problem with his mission, it would be completely regarded as a personal action, and would not receive any endorsement or rescue from the country. Damn it. I was fooled by that bastard Ron again. Hobbs slapped the steering wheel angrily. No wonder Ron took the initiative to give up such a lucrative mission. It turned out that he had known about it for a long time. Speaking of this, Ron was really wronged, because he had never considered doing overseas missions to earn subsidies. If he wanted money, there were so many rich people in Los Angeles. He could just take his IRS work permit and go around casually, and he would have money. Why did he still need to earn this hard-earned money? It can only be said that the two people are obviously not at the same level now. Hobbs is still at the stage of working for others, and after the incident with Vice President Robert, Ron has been vaguely valued by many major forces, and even regarded as an equal. No one would want to be the next target of a fierce tiger like Ron. In a blink of an eye, he ruined the reputation of a former vice president. This strength is too terrifying. "Why should we continue, big guy?" Roman's teasing voice sounded in the intercom. No matter how angry Hobbs was, he still knew what was more important. Since he arrived in Germany, there was no way out, of course. "Let's get started now." Boom. The back door of the military base was blown open by the explosives placed in advance. Toretto's convoy opened the way and entered in a line. They quickly snatched the electromagnetic weapons from the soldiers, and then used their heads to hit the first two reinforced high-powered cars, smashing the thinnest wall of the base and breaking through the wall. Roman blocked the road. Seeing that the action was successful, Hobbs quickly ordered Roman, who is responsible for the rear. Boom! There was another loud noise, and the bomb at the supporting point of the wall they had knocked open was detonated. The entire wall collapsed, forming a natural circular barrier, trapping all the soldiers in the base, and they could only sigh at the side of the car. Well done, guys. Now we just have to be careful of their patrol. Hobbs couldn't help but curse as he looked at the patrol that appeared not far ahead. Fortunately, the patrol itself was within the scope of his plan, so he was not too surprised. He quickly turned the direction at the intersection and led the convoy to turn onto another road planned in the plan. They're still chasing us. Come on, we just blew up their base and took away their electromagnetic weapons. This is just like when you have a physical examination and the doctor pokes you with his finger during an anorectal examination. Hobbs observed the pursuers behind him and gave a decisive order. Now start the second phase. There is a second phase? Why have you kept it secret until now? Roman twisted the car left and right to avoid bullets, and kept spitting out his mouth like a submachine gun. Then what is the first phase? What have we done? Toretto didn't have time to pay attention to him. Hobbs had the final say in military operations, but in the convoy, Toretto had the final say. Taji, you can release it now. Okay, the blockbuster bomb is coming. Taji pressed the button next to the gearbox. The rope of the large iron ball used to demolish houses on the construction site above his head suddenly broke and slid down rapidly from the front of the convoy. Disperse the formation. Now, Toretto yelled, and the convoy immediately formed two columns, divided on both sides of the road, leaving the middle position. The big iron ball passed through the road in the middle of the convoy and hit the police car chasing behind, instantly scrapping almost half of the vehicles. Oh my God. It's a big iron ball. Roman looked back, still frightened. By the way, let me tell you, there are still fish that have slipped through the net. What should we do now? Who told you that there is only one heavy bomb prepared? Taji chuckled and pressed another button at hand. The iron ball at the other end was also released, and along the direction of inertia, it swept the road again from back to front. At this point, the pursuers were cleared. Hobbs finally breathed a sigh of relief. Everyone did a great job. Now disband on the spot, and you go to a safe place to wait for me. At the intersection ahead, the convoy drove in different directions according to the original plan, and Toretto and Hobbs were in a group. Soon, Toretto's car drove almost parallel to Hobbs. Good job, brother. I'll buy you a beer when we get back to the base. Hobbs completed the task and relaxed. He rolled down the window and chatted with Toretto. However, surprisingly, Toretto not only did not respond to him, but suddenly turned the direction. Boom. The front of Toretto's car hit the rear wheel of Hobbs' Jeep, causing his car to suddenly deviate and hit the rocks on the roadside in front. The car body turned 180 degrees in the air and flipped on the ground, then rolled to the side of the road. Are you crazy, Toretto? Hobbs was stuck in the car seat and couldn't move. Toretto parked the car next to him, but didn't mean to lend a hand. Instead, he went straight to the back seat and took out the electromagnetic weapon they had just stolen from the military base. I remind you, if you touch the object, you will be an enemy of me and the whole world. Toretto threw it into the back seat of his car as if he didn't hear it. Hobbs struggled a few more times, but still couldn't get out of his seat. He could only give Toretto a final warning. I don't know what you want to do, but you'd better think it over, Toretto. It's not too late to let go now, but Toretto ignored him, turned around to look at him deeply, then got into the car and drove away. Well, it's too late now. Hobbs had already heard the sirens coming from afar. He could only use his last bit of strength to pick up the walkie-talkie and warn his companions. That bastard betrayed us. Toretto took the electromagnetic weapon. What are you talking about? Letty asked in disbelief on the radio. Where are you? It's too late for me. You guys run. I've seen the look in his eyes before. Dominic, Toretto just betrayed you. If you can go back safely, remember to find Ron. He will definitely find a way. After explaining the last thing he had to do, Hobbs was surrounded by the local police. A policeman put a gun to his head. Put down the walkie-talkie. Put your hands up, or I'll shoot. Get out of that car. Hobbs smashed the walkie-talkie on the ground. Okay, I'll listen to you. But first you have to get me out of the car. Chapter 288, Pritchard's Party. Meanwhile, in sunny Los Angeles, California, Ron was sitting on the sidelines of the high school stadium with the Pritchett family, enjoying a football game. Today was the day of the Manny High School football team's game. Luke was the commentator of the game, and Mitchell's husband, Cameron, was the coach of the Manny team, so the original dinner plan was changed to watching the game first and then having dinner. However, the game did not go well, and the score was still 6-0, with the Manny team lagging behind. I really hope that my family can have at least one outstanding child like you, a man who can really be called a man. I really don't understand what's wrong with the children nowadays. It's simply, halfway through complaining, Pritchett looked around guiltily to make sure Gloria was not around, and then whispered the last word, "Sissy, to be honest, I don't think you're ready to have a child like me in your family." Do you know what this means? It means that there is at least one freak like my brother Sheldon in your family. Ron patted Uncle Pritchett's back to comfort him. Don't you think there aren't enough freaks in our family? Pritchett shook his head helplessly. Which one do you think doesn't count? A daughter who's like a man? Or a son who's like a daughter? Jay Pritchett, a man who has both sons and daughters in every sense, has a lot of pain in his heart, but no one to talk to. At most, he can complain to Ron. Although he has come to terms with it over the years, he still has some small grudges in his heart. Ron didn't know what to say for a moment, but at least you still have Joe, right? I heard that you have begun to hand over the affairs of the company to Claire. I believe that you will have more time to grow up with Joe in the future. Maybe he can give you some unexpected surprises. At least he won't go out to sell cats on weekends like my brother Sheldon. I remember he's not a physicist. How come he suddenly started a pet business? How much does he sell a cat for? No, you misunderstood. Sheldon is not doing business. I think it is more appropriate to say that he is giving away cats instead of selling them. His cats are $20 each, but this money is given away, which means that for every cat given away, he has to pay $20. 2 days ago, Sheldon broke up with his new girlfriend Amy for unknown reasons. Although he acted as if everything was normal, he inexplicably adopted more than 20 cats and brought them home. The whole floor of the apartment was full of the smell of pets, so Ron didn't go home for 2 whole days. Finally, he had no choice but to call Mary and ask One to take Sheldon, the monster. Now that the two have reconciled, Sheldon naturally doesn't need those poor cats to comfort his lonely emotions. He gave each cat $20, hoping that their next owner would take good care of them. Is this probably because every family has its own problems? Ron turned his attention back to the court. Just when they were chatting, Manny successfully caught the ball, but he didn't know if he was distracted or for some other reason, and he ran less than 10 yards forward before running out of bounds. What the hell is going on? Pritchett frowned. If the kid had run another 30 yards, he would have won. Even if he was blocked by the opponent, at least he could have advanced another 10 yards or so. I think it might be because of the tragic experience of the opposing team that aroused Manny's overly strong sympathy. I remember there was a time when I was playing football at Harvard. The opposing coach was unable to come to the scene due to illness. It was also the opponent's home court that day. The atmosphere was extremely sad. Then what did you do? So we gave them a 29-0. Ron spread his hands. The game is a game, and personal relationships are personal relationships. I always keep them separate. Hi, honey. Hi, Ron. Claire's husband Shawshank came late to greet them. How is the battle going now? Not very good. There are only 3 minutes left, and there are still 6 points left. They still have a chance to turn defeat into victory. The game is not over yet. As long as they score a touchdown and kick the ball. Oh, Dunphy was talking halfway when Manny's team kicked the ball into the audience next to him, hitting Dunphy's head. Mere stunning volley kick. Since he broke the gender boundary and joined the modern dance team, he has never kicked so high. The commentator Luke made a timely supplementary move, and Claire was busy checking Dunphy back and forth. It's okay. It's okay. Everything is about keeping a happy attitude. A happy attitude. Dunphy put his hands on his hips, smiling, but it was uglier than crying. While Pritchett covered his face and turned to Ron, his eyes seemed to say, "Look, I still have a stupid son-in-law. Honestly, are you okay? What's wrong with you, Dunphy?" Ron noticed that Dunphy was in a bad mood, but he couldn't help but ask a question. "Well, God has dealt me a blow. I just lost this deal. If I don't sell a house tomorrow, it will be the first no-sales month in my career." Dunphy is a professional real estate agent who has been working in this industry for many years. Although he always looks like an easy target, he is actually a leader in this industry. "Honey, there's number 31st this month. Claire held Dunphy's arm distressedly. What did you say, Dunphy? It's April now. There's number 31st this month. Today is the 30th and tomorrow is the 1st. Ron revealed the cruel truth, and Dunphy couldn't accept it for a while. Claire asked with concern, Honey, are you okay? No, not at all. I just realized that I don't have tomorrow anymore. I always say that if I persist, the god of luck will always come, but what I waited for was just, no, your god of luck has already come. Ron interrupted Dunphy's complaints. Dunphy, I have a friend, Fiona, who wants to buy a big house in Pasadena that is big enough for 6 people to live together. Can I give this commission to you? If you are willing to accept the commission, we can now. Yes. Of course I am willing, Dunphy resurrected on the spot. At the same time, the timeout ended, and the football players who returned to the field successfully scored a touchdown with the help of a classic pistol formation. The score on the field was tied at 6-6, and Manny was sent to the field to perform the last kick. As long as he kicked the ball into the goal, they would win. Everyone held their breath nervously. Beep, the kickoff whistle blew, and Manny sprinted and kicked the ball into the goal. Pritchett excitedly pulled Ron to his feet and said, Ron, you are really the lucky god today. Manny actually kicked the ball into the goal, really? But can you let me go first, Uncle Pritchett? I have a call. Ron broke free from Pritchett's arms, answered the phone, and Letty's voice rang out. Ron, can you come over? Toretto is in trouble. Chapter 289. Ron goes to jail. Uncle Pritchett, I have something to deal with at work, so I'll excuse myself. Ron apologized to Pritchett and left the stadium, making several phone calls as he walked. An hour later, all the staff of Toretto's repair shop, including Mr. and Mrs. Smith who were on vacation, and Ron's retired seniors club, arrived. Except for Letty, who was sitting in Toretto's car and staring at the photos in a daze, everyone was looking for clues left by Toretto, trying to find the information Toretto left for them to prove that Toretto did not betray them, but was just playing a joke on them. Letty, are you okay? Ron asked worriedly, patting the roof of the car. It would have been better if he hadn't asked. As soon as he asked, Letty suddenly jumped up like a startled beast, pushed open the car door and slammed Ron against the wall. It's all your fault. Ron, if you hadn't asked Hobbs to take him to Germany, he wouldn't have been in trouble. Everything would be the same as before. Fine. You ruined everything. Ron had the chance to push Letty away, but out of guilt towards Toretto, he didn't do so. Instead, he gently pushed Letty away. Calm down. I will take responsibility for Toretto's affairs. Who can tell me where Hobbs is now? I want to know the details of this operation. Ron looked around and didn't see the big guy. He was arrested by the German police on charges of terrorism. Toretto crashed his car and took the electromagnetic weapon. I still don't understand what use he had for that thing. Toretto was away, and O'Connor automatically took over the position of team commander. Taiji just checked Toretto's call records. There are many calls with untraceable numbers. We plan to start from here. Ramsey has begun to crack those weird calls. I guess those should be from disposable phones. As long as we confirm their locations. No, these numbers should be the result of jammers. The numbers remain unchanged, but the signal traces are covered up by some kind of micro-router. Ramsey came out from behind the computer. This means that the man's technology is much more advanced than mine. Although I don't know Toretto, let's face it. He has been in contact with a stranger. He attacked Hobbs and stole the electromagnetic weapon. Halfway through, Letty couldn't stand the slander against Toretto, and was about to stand up angrily, but Ron pushed her back to the chair. Ron walked up to Ramsey and said, Girl, when you say something bad about someone, don't bother. That person saved your life. Ron was full of murderous aura, and Ramsey was frightened by Ron's momentum and sat down on the sofa. Her eyes for help turned back and forth between Roman and Taj, but no one paid attention to her. Ron looked around, and almost everyone had a look of despair on their faces, which was in sharp contrast to the people he brought with him. But it was undeniable that if these people were guided properly, they could burst out with considerable energy. Don't worry, this matter was caused by me. I promise you that I will find Toretto back. And, like all of you, I deeply believe that Toretto will never betray you. Don't forget, what are we? We are family. Ron stared at everyone with sharp eyes, but obviously not everyone bought his words. Roman, as the first thorn, jumped out. It's easy to say, we don't even know who Toretto is in contact with. How are you going to find him? Of course, start with Hobbs. Since you have returned. I guess Hobbs has been extradited back now. He had the last meeting with Toretto, and maybe he can tell me some different clues. The federal top prison, a place completely different from Shawshank prison, is a place that specializes in detaining serious criminals who endanger public safety. So far, only 2 people have successfully escaped from here. Even for someone like Ron, it was not easy to get in. However, just when Ron arrived at the door and was about to call to smooth things over, he saw a new prison van parked at the door. Hobbs, wearing prison clothes, was shackled and driven out of the van by the guards. Ron went up to the guards with his IRS work ID and walked directly to Hobbs, mocking him. "Have I ever told you that orange really suits you?" Before Hobbs could reply, 2 people walked out of the prison. They were none other than the anonymous person and his assistant. "I was just about to say that, Hobbs, you are charged with 15 counts of terrorist attacks, treason, dangerous driving, etc. You are really amazing. What else do you want to say?" "I just want them to help me change to a bigger pair of pants. This pair is too tight and really doesn't suit me." Hobbs pretended to be relaxed and straightened his hips. Ron rolled his eyes. "It's time to stop bragging? You have the nerve to brag with your size?" Anonymous looked at Hobbs, then at Ron. "Dear Mr. Ron, if you are here to say goodbye to an old friend, just send him here, and we will take care of the rest." "Who told you I was here to say goodbye?" Ron pretended to be surprised at first, then said seriously, "Mr. Hobbs, we at the IRS have found a record of large-scale tax evasion in you. We need to take you to the IRS prison for interrogation. Please cooperate." As he said that, Ron was about to pull Hobbs away, but as soon as he moved, the soldiers around him immediately pointed their guns at him, and Anonymous applauded proudly from behind. "I'm sorry, Ron, you're a step late this time. Hobbs has been arrested by us. If you have any objections, you can file a complaint with the NSA, but I can't guarantee that your complaint will be accepted. Because of your relationship, we suspect that you have the motive to help him escape from prison. Well, since you have already seen it, I'll just confess." Ron ignored the gun pointed at him and spread his hands. "I'm here to help him escape from prison, so what are you going to do? Do you want to lock me up with him?" "No, we will only ask you to leave in the name of obstruction of public service. Please, Ron, if my people do it, it will be too ugly." The Anonymous pointed to the soldier next to Ron, and the smile in his eyes could not be concealed. What could be more worthy of his happiness than seeing the always arrogant Ron being humiliated by him? But soon he couldn't laugh anymore, because a black shadow mixed with a sound of wind grew bigger and bigger in his eyes, until it hit his eye socket, and he realized that it was a fist. "Ouch!" The Anonymous screamed and fell to the ground. Ron raised his hands to show off. "Everyone, I just attacked an important national security personnel. This is an unforgivable crime. Do you want to lock me up with this big guy?" Chapter 290 Prison Brawl. Bang! The big iron door behind Ron was locked. With his efforts, he got his wish and put on the same orange prison uniform as Hobbs and lived in prison. His cell was next to Hobbs, and the person opposite his cell was none other than Deckard Shaw, who had been beaten badly by him. Ron made a face at the camera in the cell. If he said that even this was a coincidence, no one would believe it. "Ron, thank you, but you really don't have to do this for me." Hobbs, who was tired of bickering with Shaw, lifted the pure metal table as a barbell and thanked Ron. "Don't get me wrong, big guy, I didn't come here specifically to save you. I just have a question for you." "What?" Ron stared at Hobbs's reflective bald head for a while, and sighed. "No, it's okay now." He now felt that it was the stupidest decision for him to come in with Hobbs. If Hobbs really knew why Toretto did what he did, he would not be thrown in. Although this move was meant to be a show for the Germans, Ron was 100% sure that with the character of the anonymous person, he would arrange a riot in the prison at most one day to create an opportunity for Hobbs to slip out. Although in Ron's opinion, Hobbs was terribly stupid, in terms of mobility, he was still an indispensable general for the anonymous person who had no one to use. Ron didn't believe that he would be willing to keep his beloved in prison. However, although Hobbs calmed down, Zio, who couldn't find an opponent over there, fixed his eyes on Ron again. "Hey, Ron, I didn't expect you to come in too. Welcome to join us. What did you do? Did you kill a diplomat from a certain country? Or did you accidentally kill the Secretary of Defense? Tell me and make me happy. If I say I killed the current vice president, would you believe it?" Tisk. The bragging of newcomers is getting less and less novel now. Why don't you say you assassinated the president? Then I might look at you more highly. Deckard Shaw curled his lips. Stupid, you don't think I'm here to stay for a long time like you? Ron rolled his eyes. I can't get used to the food here. For lunch, I prefer Chinese food, Zio taunted mercilessly. Hey, kid, do you think you can order takeout here? Why not? In front of the two people, Ron took out a mobile phone from his pocket like a magic trick, shook it proudly at the two people, and didn't even rush to show it to the camera. Zio's eyes widened, and he couldn't figure out where he had just hidden the phone. Hey, what's wrong with the security bolts in your prison? In the monitoring room, the anonymous person who was watching the situation through the camera slapped the table in dissatisfaction. How could you bring such a big mobile phone into the prison? Is your metal detector broken? Although he knew that Ron had always been nicknamed a magician and could always conjure up all kinds of equipment from his body at any time, he never thought that Ron could even fool the metal detector. This slap in the face came too quickly. However, there was more slap in the face. Before the warden spoke, the anonymous's cell phone rang. He picked up the phone and saw that it was Ron who called. Ron waved his hand at the camera. Hey, for lunch, I want kung pao chicken, shredded pork with fish flavor, sweet and sour pork tenderloin, and finally a plate of dry fried beef noodles. I want more kung pao chicken and less peanuts. That's it. Send it quickly. Anonymous' heart seemed to be trampled by 10,000 horses. What the hell, peanuts? But it wasn't over yet. Ron covered the microphone with one hand and shouted to Hobbs next door, Big guy, what do you want for lunch? Just order it. Don't hesitate. Master Cooper, will pay for all the expenses for lunch today. If Anonymous hadn't known that Ron would definitely make trouble, he would have almost had a brain hemorrhage. Come on, we're already in prison, and you can eat whatever you want? What do you think this is? A Chinese restaurant? Anonymous was furious, and his vicious look made the sweaty warden even more embarrassed. I'll ask the kitchen to prepare those dishes now. You see, he's eating shit. Anonymous couldn't stand it anymore and slapped the table and stood up. This is a federal prison, not a restaurant. Cut off all the electricity in the prison immediately and get those three bastards out. Beep beep, the alarm sounded suddenly, and the light in the prison went dark. The emergency lights immediately illuminated the inside again. Just when the prisoners' eyes finally adapted to the light and darkness, they opened their eyes again and found that the iron door that trapped them was actually opened. The road to freedom was waving at them. Hobbs immediately understood Anonymous's intention and shouted at the camera, No. I will never go out, Anonymous. I am not guilty. If I go out, I must leave here in the right way, but Deckard Shaw was one step faster than him. As soon as the cell door opened, he jumped out like a monkey. Ron was so angry that he slapped Hobbs' bald head with a slap. Idiot, what are you waiting for? Whether you can get out or not, you have to beat up Deckard Shaw first. The prison break can fail, but Deckard must be beaten. As he said that, Ron knocked down a prison guard who came to maintain order, handed his baton to Hobbs, and then flexibly made a pendulum dodge commonly used in boxing. Papa, with two sounds, 2 rubber bullets missed and hit the metal wall behind him, and Ron had already stepped forward, knocked down the 2 prison guards one by one, and took away 2 rifles specially used to fire rubber bullets. The bullets of this gun are made of rubber. Although they cannot penetrate people like real bullets, the large amount of kinetic energy provided by the burning gunpowder makes this rubber bullet hit people like the most powerful boxer in the world, and it can immediately make a bruise on the body. If an ordinary person was hit by such a bullet, he would fall to the ground immediately, in great pain. However, the muscular monster Hobbs was obviously not one of them. He rushed to them quickly, taking the bullets from the prison guards. With a swing of his baton, he killed one prison guard, and then hit another prison guard's helmet with his big bald head, and the remaining one fainted immediately. Hobbs' eyes were red. He spotted Deckard Shaw's position in the crowd and rushed over like a bulldozer. Ron jumped onto the railing, tucked 2 rifles under his armpits, and fired at the prison corridor without distinguishing between friend and foe. If you want to have fun, have more fun. Babies fight for me. The anonymous person shook his head while watching the surveillance. MD, this madman, how does Ron look like a prisoner? He clearly came to the prison to have fun with these poor prisoners and prison guards. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 291, Stop Fighting. Click. The rubber bullets and the 2 rifles were fired, and in front of Ron, there was no prison guard or prisoner who could stand intact. A passage was opened in front of him, leading directly to the only gate leading to the outside of the prison. At this time, the power suddenly recovered, and the gate was slowly lowered again. Deckard Shaw, who was next to him, immediately sprinted over and crossed the gate. Hobbs was naturally unwilling to be outdone. He threw the two prisoners whose heads he had knocked together like garbage, rushed towards Deckard Shaw, and punched Deckard Shaw on the back of his head. Deckard Shaw seemed to have eyes on the back of his head. His body suddenly twisted in the air, making Hobbs's punch miss. Not only that, Shaw also took the opportunity to dodge the punch, turned his whole body over, then twisted his waist and hips, and the inertia of turning around made almost all the strength of his body poured into his right foot, and attacked Hobbs's kidneys in a tricky way. But Deckard Shaw forgot one thing: he was not fighting Hobbs one-on-one. There was another Ron next to him staring at him covetously. When he saw Hobbs suffer a loss, Ron, who had already rushed to the side, immediately walked to the middle with his hands outstretched, trying to stop the fight, shouting, "Stop fighting!" But he secretly kicked Deckard Shaw's supporting foot with one foot, and before Shaw's foot touched Hobbs, he had already lost his balance and fell to the ground. Seeing Deckard Shaw fall, Hobbs certainly would not miss such a great opportunity, and immediately rode on Shaw, who only had time to protect his head, and his fists as big as bowls fell down like raindrops. In a blink of an eye, it was just like what Hobbs said: beating Deckard Shaw was like playing a tambourine. While pretending to stop the fight, Ron accidentally stepped on Deckard Shaw a few times, and he felt so happy in his heart. Unfortunately, happy times are always short-lived. As the prison gate closed and the exit gate opened, an anonymous person with a dark eye and a large group of soldiers surrounded them. 6 minutes and 15 seconds, a little faster than I expected. "Gentlemen, can you let go of Mr. Deckard Shaw? He is the helper I found specially for you." Ron curled his lips and lifted Deckard Shaw up by his collar. "Justin, Ron. Although I can't beat you, if you dare to humiliate me again, I promise you, we must fight to the death." Deckard Shaw spat out a mouthful of blood with a sound of pun. "At least, I am more than enough to beat that big guy. Just you? I just beat you like a tambourine and made you scream for your mother. That's because you have help. If you have the guts, let's try it one-on-one. Don't you remember how I sent you to the hospital last time?" Hobbs blushed immediately when he mentioned hospitalization. "I took the initiative to jump from the 4th floor to save my partner's life. In our country, bombs are never used in fights. You despicable villain, your country never uses bombs in fights?" "Who said that?" Deckard Shaw pointed at Ron and said, "He not only uses bombs in fights, but sometimes he also uses rocket launchers." This sentence instantly silenced Hobbs. Seeing that the two of them were about to fight again, the assistant of the anonymous person wanted to stop them, but when he saw the dark eyes of the boss, Ron, who had been standing aside calmly, immediately gave up the idea. "Okay, Hobbs. Since Mr. Anonymous said he can be useful, why not let him follow us and try it first?" Seeing Hobbs was frustrated, Ron took the initiative to give him a way out. "Mr. Anonymous, since you got us out of it so quickly, I think you should have some clues about the case in Berlin, right? Where do I need to go this time? Moscow? Or Paris? Come with me, I'll take you to my new base first." The new base of the anonymous person is located in a valley in eastern California. It took them 3 hours to get there by helicopter. As soon as Ron walked into the conference room, he saw several familiar faces. Toretto's family, including Letitia, were all sitting at the table in the conference room, handcuffed. "Anonymous, why did you arrest them all? What did they do wrong? How could we have done anything wrong?" As soon as Roman saw Ron coming in, he stood up as if he had found his backbone. "If I were to say, this is an abuse of public power, and they also have serious racial discrimination tendencies. Look, none of us has white skin. You said you wanted me to arrest them," the assistant said innocently. "I told you to invite them over, not to handcuff them. You're making me very embarrassed." Anonymous snapped his fingers. "Let them go." "No need." Letty put her hands, which had been under the table, on the table. Her hands were now free. "Anonymous, is this how you treat old friends?" Anonymous decisively put the blame on his subordinates. "Of course not. I just asked my subordinates to invite you over. It was his misunderstanding." Roman stood up. "I don't care about any misunderstanding or not. I've been here for almost 4 hours and I'm starving. No matter what you think, I'm leaving now." "I suggest you not do that." Ron stepped to the side and stood in front of Roman. "What? Are you in the same group with them? Did you ask him to arrest us? Of course not. I just found out that because of the scam you did in Berlin, you have successfully made it to the top 10 of the latest Interpol wanted list. Believe me, this is more influential than being in the top 10 of the Billboard list. As long as you show up in any place with cameras outside, within an hour, a large group of police will come to your door and send you to the place we just came out of. Top 10? Sounds good. Roman had a smug smile on his face. Don't get me wrong, you are not included in the top 10, Roman. You are the 11th, just one short. Keep working hard next time. Ron patted his shoulder to encourage him. You were also arrested and thrown into prison just now? Ron, Taiji asked in surprise. Don't count, I just went in to pick up these two guys. Ron pointed to Hobbs and Deckard Shaw standing behind. Wow, Shaw's appearance immediately caused everyone to stand up, and the atmosphere became tense. Ron, we will never team up with that guy. Letty was the first to object. She stared at Deckard Shaw. Don't think I will forget what you did. I won't work with him either. O'Connor also followed suit. Don't worry, he's not here to destroy this family, but to join them. Dumb. Ron was so confused that he even misspoken. I mean, he's just working with us to find someone and solve this big problem, and then we'll go our separate ways. He's very experienced in finding people, isn't he? Everyone? Besides, he just happens to have a score to settle with our opponent this time. His brother, Owen, did so many bad things because of the deception of our opponent this time. Ron put his hands on the table and looked at Letty. If you really want Toretto to come back soon, we'll be faster with him around. Of course, if you strongly object, I won't force it. The worst that can happen is that I'll just send him back to prison. Letty was stunned, her fingers twisted together unnaturally. Ron could see that she was very conflicted, but after a moment, Letty finally agreed. Okay, as long as Toretto can come back, I'm willing to have him join. Okay, then everyone please go back to your seats and sit down. We'll start working now. Ron waved to Anonymous, who had been standing nearby watching the show. I don't like being watched when I'm directing work. If you're free, why don't you bring in some coffee? Bring in some cookies, by the way. Many of us haven't eaten yet. Also, please help me rush for the takeaway I just ordered. It's been an hour. How come my lunch hasn't arrived yet? Anonymous felt his blood pressure soar several degrees again. I've told you just now, and I'll tell you again, this is a top secret base. It's impossible for any takeaway to be delivered here. I've asked my men to buy it for you. Please wait a moment. Ron was stunned. Just when Anonymous breathed a sigh of relief, thinking that he had finally stopped making trouble, Ron spoke again. Okay, I don't want the cookies. Please send some barbecue over to fill my stomach. I smelled barbecue when I got off the plane just now. Boom. The anonymous person left the room and slammed the door. Ron made a victory V sign behind him. Everyone laughed at Ron's action, and finally let out the anger of being tied up. This is called the morale of the army. Ron waited for everyone to laugh enough, clapped his hands, and focused everyone's attention on himself again. Guys, it will probably take a while for the dinner to be delivered. Before that, how about we work for a while? You just said that this guy also has a grudge against this opponent, which means you already know who we are facing this time. O'Connor pointed at Deckard Shaw and asked. Good question. Ron raised a thumbs up in appreciation and used the remote control to turn on the screen in the conference room. A photo of a beautiful woman appeared on the screen. Yes, our opponent this time is this person, Sever. To be honest, this is the first time I have heard of this name. I didn't expect it to give me such a headache. Wait, Ramsey interrupted Ron's speech. I heard that Sever is an organization. Who knows? Anyway, the information obtained by Anonymous told me that Sever is this woman, but I reserve the possibility that this may also be the name of an organization. But one thing is certain, in either case, this woman is definitely deeply involved with the name Sever. They are a very powerful hacker organization that can manipulate computer systems all over the world from the dark. On the helicopter that came over, Ron had already exchanged information with Anonymous. Doesn't that mean that she can also see the movie I just downloaded yesterday? That was a resource that I found with great difficulty. It's too unfair for her to take it away like this, Roman said indignantly. Roman, believe me, a woman who looks so sexy won't be interested in the stuff on your computer. As long as she wants, she can get any man in the world. This is what I can't understand the most, why such a beautiful woman would want to be a terrorist, but what can we do if we know her? Ron was interrupted again, but this time it was Letty. Of course it's related, Ron pointed at Taj. The unknown communication information you found on Toretto's phone is all related to this woman. Ron pressed a button, and the screen switched to a photo of Toretto, which was taken by a roadside surveillance camera with a woman just now. Toretto was handing the electromagnetic weapon snatched from Hobbs to the woman. Guys, I think Toretto didn't betray. He just had to obey this woman for some unavoidable reason. So, I think our breakthrough should be to get in touch with Toretto first. What do you think? I agree, but where should we find Toretto? Wandering around the streets, Taj spread his hands and said helplessly. The Sky Eye system you helped Anonymous retrieve is not just for show. It's in the next room. I need you and Ramsey to use it to find Dom's people now. What about us? Letty asked quickly. Ron looked up, glanced at the dining card outside the door, and nodded. Of course, we'll eat first. After the two of them find Toretto, we'll go catch him and beat him up first. When it came to beating him up, Deckard Shaw's body shook unconsciously. He hadn't been beaten so badly in a long time. The last time was in the military camp in Afghanistan, and it was Ron who did it. Deckard Shaw glared at Ron hatefully, but Ron continued to eat the meat as if he didn't notice. Shaw could only imagine the beef in his hand as being cut from Ron, and then turned his grief into appetite and ate it. And Ron was not idle either. After finishing his meal in no time, Ron walked out of the meeting room and called his IRS Special Operations team. The call was answered by Andy. Andy didn't forget to make a little joke with him. Boss, you've been slacking off for 2 days. If it weren't for my salary being paid as usual, I would have put up a missing person notice looking for you. Ron's tone became serious for a rare time. I have some other things to do here, and I guess I won't have time to go back these 2 days. Listen, Andy, I need your help with something, and I hope you and your old friends can help me with some private matters. Andy didn't say anything else. You say, boss, let Hannibal work as a temporary chef for 2 days in a small restaurant in the city called Williamsburg Restaurant. If the boss doesn't hire anyone, find a way to get their current chef injured. The 2 waitresses in that restaurant are my good friends. In addition, arrange for Joe and Marvin to work as cleaners at Coltech. There is a scientist named Sheldon there who is my younger brother. Chapter 292 The Base Under Attack. With Ron's understanding of Toretto, he absolutely did not believe that Toretto would betray his family, unless there was only one situation, that is, a family member was coerced by Sephara or the organization, so he had to do this. Therefore, after Ron took over the case, the first thing he did was to arrange his men to protect his family members who he valued. There was no need to worry about George and Mary in his hometown. With Forrest Gump there, no one could hurt him. The only thing that made Ron a little headache was that he had a lot of women. Ron didn't know how far this mysterious man named Sephara would investigate him, so he could only deploy all defenses. Fortunately, Ron had enough men, especially the elderly people in the retirement club. In addition to having good skills, they could also rely on their relatively harmless appearance to lurk around the target and play the role of a surprise soldier. Taj, how is the search going? Ron walked into the control room and asked as he looked at the dazzling information jumping back and forth on the big screen. This woman is very cunning. You see, Taj operated on the computer for a while, and countless red dots appeared on the world map on the big screen. There are reports of finding Toretto in London, Seoul, Hong Kong, Manila, and almost all major cities around the world. Ron frowned. How did this happen? Did that woman cut Toretto into many pieces and scattered them all over the world? No, she just used a special technology to send information packets to random locations around the world, cleverly covering up Toretto's real location with the facial information containing Toretto. So our Sky Eye system is now a decoration, right? Of course not. Ramsey shook her afro. In order to send false information packets to the Sky Eye, they used a universal logic element array, which means that there must be a synchronous random number generator. We can reversely track the signal of this generator and use it to find Toretto's real location. I don't understand much technical stuff, but since you said so, let's try it. After getting Ron's approval, Taj and Ramsey immediately started to work in reverse. The red dots on the world map disappeared one by one. In the end, only the red dot representing California was still flashing. Ron had an ominous premonition. Every time he had this feeling, something bad would happen. Although it was not good to directly associate the ethereal feeling with work. But Ron looked at the more familiar outline on the map and couldn't help asking, Mr. Anonymous, can you tell me where this place is? That's interesting. This is where we are now. Anonymous smiled strangely. Just when he hadn't figured out what went wrong, boom, a huge explosion blew up the gate of the base, and a round metal object was thrown in from the outside. When the object got closer, Ron could see it clearly. It turned out to be a small disc with several conical arrows inserted in it, and as the small disc slid, the conical arrows kept shooting around irregularly. Although Ron didn't know what it was, he could tell from his years of experience that it was definitely not a good thing. He didn't want someone to go to great lengths to break into this secret military base just to give him a gift. Unless that person was Santa Claus. And the idiot Hobbs actually reached out and grabbed a conical arrow in his hand, which made Ron's eyes bulge. "Throw it away, Hobbs!" Ron yelled, scaring Hobbs to throw the thing away, but it was too late. The arrow exploded in the air. The fire and shrapnel that Ron expected did not appear, but the whistling sound produced by the explosion was extremely harsh, making people feel sick and want to vomit yesterday's overnight meal. "MD, this is a stun bomb." Ron reacted immediately, but it was too late. Other stun bombs launched into the air exploded one after another. Ron could only pull a soft thing over his head. Buzz. The strong sound waves from the stun bombs continued to stimulate Ron's eardrums, but Ron had no time to feel sick, because he knew that someone would take advantage of their dizziness to attack them soon. Sure enough, a slim woman led a group of people and walked in from the broken door. "How is it? Do you like this new toy?" The latest shock. Bang! Ron fired a shot from behind the table in the direction of the sound without waiting for her to finish. But unfortunately, he was tortured too badly by the stun bombs. Even with a revolver, the shot was so crooked that it couldn't be crooked anymore, and it had no effect except to scare the woman. The woman was shocked. "How come there are still people who haven't been knocked out? You said it was just a toy. Do you expect a toy to take down a whole room of people? Don't you underestimate us CIA guys?" Ron hid behind a table, trying to hold back the dizziness that came over his head. Although he kept his voice steady and spoke in the same tone as usual, he was not sure if the other party knew of his existence, so he deliberately reported his identity as CIA to disrupt the other party's information. But no matter what, his shaking hands still betrayed his current state. "I don't believe it. This thing will keep disrupting your senses until you pass out. You must be in pain now, right?" The woman dragged Ron with a sexy voice and quietly waved to her men. The two teams of men ignored the people lying on the ground and quietly surrounded Ron. When they finally reached the table where Ron was hiding, the two leaders gestured to each other, flashed out at the same time, and pointed their guns at the back of the table. But there was nothing behind the table. They could only wave their hands to the woman helplessly, indicating that there was no one here. Toretto finally let go of the worry he had been holding and breathed a sigh of relief. As long as Ron was fine, everything would be fine. There was still a chance to turn the tables. He had always had blind confidence in Ron. What a joke. How could Ron, who had so much combat experience, stay there and wait to die after making a sound? As soon as the woman's men started to move, he took advantage of the reflection of the glass fragments on the ground to see their movements, and then quietly moved behind another supporting column with the help of the messy cover. But the bad news is that the impact of the stun bomb is still taking effect on him, and his current combat power is not even 1/10 of his usual strength. Chapter 293 Counterattack. First of all, weapons that can cause ranged damage, such as grenades, cannot be used. Because the people lying on the ground are all his own people, he doesn't know if the other party can dodge if he throws a grenade, but he knows that at least he can kill one of his own people. Because of the stun bomb, although Ron can barely recover his movements now, he has double vision in front of his eyes, and even can't shoot accurately. The miss just now is a clear proof. Ron has been in such an embarrassing situation for so many years. Unknown warrior, do you really think you can beat so many of us alone? Why don't you come out and surrender early? I believe you can see that we don't mean to kill anyone. Look, your companions are still alive and well. We just want to take away something that originally belongs to me, that is, the sky eye that you stole. This is originally mine, Sefer shouted tentatively, and his men started searching the house in pairs, back to back. Bullshit. Ron cursed inwardly. That was clearly something Peggy made with Ramsey's help. What does it have to do with you? But at the same time, Ron was also in a dilemma. The room was not big to begin with. There was not much room for him to maneuver tactically. It was only a matter of time before Ron was caught, unless he could quickly catch the leader of the other side. Ron took a sneak peek and saw that there were 6 men around Sever, not counting Toretto. And even if Ron was not affected by the shock bomb, he could not handle them all at once. Just when Ron was at a loss, he suddenly felt a shock in his waist. "I can fly and point to the sky, and the blue sky can be seen." The theme song of Naruto, Bluebird, rang out in this tense meeting room. Damn it. The phone rings. Who is so unlucky to call at this time? Ron quickly muted his phone, but it was too late. "It's right there," Sapphire shouted in surprise, and immediately various bullets smashed the surface of the pillar where Ron was hiding. "Look at the grenade," Ron yelled, and 2 black objects were thrown out from behind the pillar. Sapphire was shocked. Is this man crazy? There are so many of their own people outside, how dare he throw out a grenade? But she couldn't think about it at this moment. One of his men quickly pressed her to lie on the ground. But the expected explosion did not occur. When Sapphire looked back in confusion, she found that what Ron threw out from behind the pillar was not a grenade. It was clearly 2 leather shoes. She was fooled by Ron again. Ron took advantage of the opportunity when the enemy lay down, flew out from behind the pillar, fell next to a stunned CIA agent, quickly took off the smoke bomb on his body and threw it out. The smoke began to spread and immediately filled the space in the conference room. Everywhere she looked, there was a vast expanse of white. Sapphire felt a sudden panic in her heart for no reason. "Come out. Do you believe me? If you don't surrender, I will kill your companions one by one right in front of you." "Really? Then why don't you try? See if you can kill my people faster or I can kill your people faster." Unfortunately, Sapphire's hysteria did not make Ron surrender, but instead caused his mocking voice to sound from all directions. It was as if Ron had split into countless clones and spoke to her from all directions. Even though Sapphire had an extraordinary IQ, she hesitated for a moment before figuring out what trick Ron was playing. Speakers or mobile phones? What a boring trick. "How long do you think you can drag on with this trick?" Sapphire pretended to be relaxed, but in fact, his nerves were already tense. At 11 o'clock, there was a scream from his men. Sapphire's heart tightened, and he quickly fired several shots in that direction until he emptied a magazine. But as soon as the gunshot stopped, there was another scream from his men, this time, at 5 o'clock. Sapphire was shocked, and she began to be a little scared. Is this a human or a ghost? How come he was just over there, but he ran behind him so quickly and without anyone noticing? Ron smiled secretly in his heart. In fact, when the first scream came just now, he was not over there at all. Instead, he picked up a cup on the ground and threw it over there, hitting someone. Unfortunately, before the subordinate had time to explain, he was killed by Sapphire himself. While their attention was attracted to that side, Ron walked over here quietly and stabbed another subordinate in the heart. He had put away his gun. In this dense fog where you can't see your hand in front of you, the sound of the gunshot would only expose his position. After taking off his shoes and walking in socks, he could hardly make any sound, but he could hear the sound of the intruder's boots. As early as when the smoke started, Ron took out the mobile phones of Letty and the others who were close to him, and used his own mobile phone to connect to a multi-person call. He put one down every few steps, which created the feeling that the sound seemed to come from all directions. In a flash, the situation that was almost certain to end in death was revived by his move. Fighting requires inspiration, and Ron's cell phone ringtone just now was his source of inspiration. Ron put his mouth close to the phone and chuckled gloomily. 8 places, what? There are 8 vital points on the human body: throat, spine, heart, carotid artery, liver, lungs, clavicle and kidney. Where do you want me to stab the knife first? Sapphire felt a chill all over her body. She had never felt so close to death, and what was more terrifying than death was that she had not even seen her opponent since the beginning of the battle. Noah. Sapphire opened her mouth and just uttered a word, and immediately there was another scream next to her. The distance was so close that she even felt some warm liquid splashing on her face. Sapphire reached out and touched her hand and licked it with her tongue. It was blood. Everyone listen, we retreat now. Sapphire immediately made a decision in his heart. It was definitely not a good idea to continue to fight with Ron here. They were originally on a surprise attack. After receiving the signal that they were under attack, reinforcements from other places must be on the way. The longer they delayed, the more disadvantageous it would be for them. She didn't even dare to kill the people on the ground casually, for fear that Ron would be angered and shoot at them at will. Ron was alone, while they were a large group. In the situation where they could not see anyone and could only shoot blindly, they would suffer no matter what. It was under this condition of mutual fear that the tacit stalemate just now was formed. Chapter 294. Next stop, New York. The intruders retreated in an orderly manner following Sefer's orders, but Ron did not dare to be careless and continued to change positions in the smoke. The trick of making a feint to the east and attacking in the west is not new. Even the gangsters on the roadside can do it, not to mention this mysterious hacker-terrorist organization. Even after the house was completely silent, he did not dare to completely relax his vigilance. It was not until he vaguely heard the sirens of the backup that Ron finally closed his eyes and fell into deep sleep until someone pushed him awake again. "Hey, Ron, are you okay?" When he opened his eyes, he saw Hobbs's anxious bald head. "I'm fine." Ron stood up and realized that he had been lying on the ground. He stretched his body and felt the crackling sound of his bones all over his body. He was sure that he was fine. "How much damage did we suffer in total, except for Letty who sat there in a daze after seeing Toretto?" "We didn't suffer any casualties." Teji pointed in Letty's direction, "but they stole the Skynet system, no casualties." "Then why do I keep hearing the sound of the ambulance?" Ron asked curiously. "The ambulance is here to take the wounded in the CIA base." "You don't think it was the CIA soldiers who opened the door and invited Sefer in yesterday, right? How else could they have come?" Speaking of this, Ron was furious. Originally, he thought that the base mentioned by the anonymous person was not completely safe, but at least it could guarantee them a safe working environment. But the result was that even the most basic working environment could not be guaranteed. In fact, there was no sign of attack. Ron was completely unprepared and had to fight the intruder in extreme dizziness. It can be said that if it weren't for the inspiration from the cell phone ringtone of Naruto, he would have been almost wiped out by Sever yesterday. "Wait, Ron, I think you may have misunderstood Mr. Anonymous." Ramsey heard Ron's complaint and suddenly interrupted the conversation between Ron and Hobbs. "Then what do you think?" Ron raised his eyebrows in dissatisfaction. "This is the CIA's highest-level secret base. There are several satellites monitoring every move nearby. It is impossible for anyone to sneak in without alerting the guards. Could it be that they have some kind of super time and space transmission technology that can send armed personnel to any place on the Earth without warning? If that's the case, I don't think they need to come to grab the Sky Eye. They can just dominate the Earth directly. I promise to be the first to kneel down for Queen Sever. Of course there is no problem with kneeling down, but there is a prerequisite, that is, the woman named Sever lifts her buttocks and kneels down in front of him first, then he will follow closely and kneel down. No, I mean, they might have taken a ghost flight to break into the military base." Ron smiled contemptuously. "I thought that planes that cannot be tracked by satellites were just internet legends." "Not really." Anonymous settled his injured men and joined the conversation late. "Although the satellite and radar networks cover every corner of the Earth, they are not always monitoring every place on the Earth. Instead, each monitoring unit numbers the regional modules it is responsible for, and scans its monitoring area over and over again. Just like ocean currents, they have their own operating rules. If someone understands these rules, they can always move in the blind areas of all radars and satellites, so that he will never be found." "What you said is only in theory." Ron glared at Anonymous, not willing to be outdone. He would not accept this reason to excuse his men, but in fact, it is impossible for anyone to know all the satellites and radars in the world. This is a military secret. If someone has this ability, no matter which country's intelligence agency he joins, he will be 100% valued, and there is no need to fly around in the sky on a ghost plane. What if this person also has super strong hacking skills and can change the monitoring rules of some ground monitoring facilities at any time? Do you know how bad the firewall of the Ministry of Defense is? Even the nerdy scientists at Caltech can borrow military reconnaissance planes to take pictures of Victoria's Secret models in swimsuits. Ron was stuck for a moment. He really couldn't refute this reason because he happened to know a Caltech scientist who often did this. That guy not only often borrowed military reconnaissance planes to take pictures of supermodels, but also drove NASA's Mars rover into a ditch. In this way, it is not completely impossible that there is a plane that has been operating in the blind spot of monitoring. Well, if all you said above is true, then it's the past tense. The question we need to think about now is, where will they go next? New York, Ron had just asked, and Deckard Shaw, who had been silent all the time, suddenly spoke up, startling Ron. New York? What's your reason? Of course the reason is this. Deckard Shaw held up a small piece of paper, and Ron quickly pressed it over and unfolded it. It was Toretto's handwriting on it. This was when Sefer and his men attacked. Toretto slipped it to me when no one was paying attention. Ron looked at the small piece of paper, his eyes getting brighter and brighter. He didn't expect everything to be like this. However, when he saw a name, his expression became a little strange. What? Is there any problem with Toretto's plan? Deckard Shaw asked with concern. In terms of who wants to kill Sefer the most besides Ron, it must be him, so he doesn't want the plan to have any mistakes. Zio, Victoria Windsor is your mother? Yes. Deckard Shaw was a little confused by Ron's sudden question, but still answered honestly. Windsor is her original surname. Since my father died, she has restored her original surname. Is there any problem, then if your mother remarries, do you know and want to change to another surname? Ron weighed every word in his words. For example, what do you think of the surname Dufresne? Dufresne? This surname sounds a little familiar. Deckard Shaw suddenly showed a vigilant expression. Wait, what do you mean? Why should Owen and I change our surnames? It seems that you and your mother really haven't been in touch for a long time. Ron looked at Shaw with some sympathy. Don't you know that she has a new boyfriend and will be getting married around this time next year? That man happens to be named Andy Dufresne, my chief intelligence officer. We have a very good relationship, and sometimes we even call each other brothers. You see, if your stepfather and I are brothers, and your mother is my brother's girlfriend, then we are probably relatives? How about you call me Uncle Ron from now on? New York, Brooklyn Bridge. The world's first bridge built with steel, was considered the eighth wonder after the seven wonders of the ancient world when it was completed, and was hailed as one of the seven epoch-making construction projects in the world during the Industrial Revolution. And now, Ron is driving on this bridge. Hey. I don't understand why we have to be locked up in the cargo hold with these rotten fish and shrimp, while you can drive a sports car on the road with swagger. Roman's complaining voice came from the intercom next to Ron. Not far behind his car, in the truck that transported seafood, all members of Toretto's team, as well as Hobbs and Deckard Shaw were hiding. No way. Who let the Sky Eye system be stolen? Sefer has all your personal information, and can confirm your whereabouts at any time through surveillance on the road or mobile phone cameras, and my name is not on that list. Then at least find a cleaner car, such as a car that transports sofas or alcohol, please. I don't want to carry a bunch of drunks to carry out the mission. If this car is full of Jack Daniels, I'm sure there will be no alcohol left when we arrive at the destination. Ron has always doubted the combat ability of the people in the Toretto team, but he has always been positive about their alcohol tolerance. He doesn't want to get drunk before the mission is carried out. Ron, Hobbs's buzzing voice came from the intercom. Do you know who Toretto's next mission target is? Due to the length of Toretto's note, he could only simply tell Ron where they came from, where to go next, and why he did this. The target was not written down. Of course, it is not ruled out that Toretto herself did not know what her mission target was before the mission was carried out. As an outsider who joined the team under duress, Toretto had very limited intelligence. Of course I know, it must be a Russian diplomat. Why? No reason, just because if they plan to do something, they will definitely need a lot of stronger weapons. It is not realistic to rob the US military warehouse because they don't know which warehouse has weapons. Thanks to the corrupt generals in the Pentagon, although every arsenal has all kinds of weapons, only God knows the real situation in the warehouse, so if they want to get weapons, they will definitely start from Russia. The Brooklyn Bridge was about to end. Ron turned on the turn signal for the car behind him and asked the driver to follow him. The two cars drove one after the other directly into cold storage, not far from the bridge. Bang! Ron opened the door of the warehouse, and several big men with fishy smell walked out of the cargo hold. I swear, I will never eat tuna again in my life. No problem. Remember what you said, when the mission is over and we have a celebration party, I will automatically remove your name. I am planning to have a Japanese food party. Hey, where did you take us? Seeing that he could not complain, Roman immediately started to find fault with other aspects. We are going to face the most vicious terrorists in the exam. You brought us here. Are you going to let us use these frozen fish pieces as knives to fight them desperately? Of course not. Ron nodded to a worker next to him, and the man immediately waved to Ron, turned around and began to lead the way. In fact, this is another secret base of the CIA, a secret base that has not been exposed yet. At the same time, this is also one of the largest weapons warehouses of the CIA in New York. The cold storage worker led them to an inconspicuous small door, opened the small window on the door, and pressed a few numbers on the code device. Beep. Beep. After 3 alarms, the small door did not open, but the entire wall, with a pillar next to the small door as the center, split to both sides, revealing the luxurious and technological interior space inside. Holy shit, Roman couldn't help but swear, is this heaven? The secret base was full of various confiscated luxury vehicles, including various supercars that had only been seen on TV news. These are a surprise that is enough to make people happy for a whole day, even for ordinary people, let alone these experts who have been testing cars for a lifetime. Their temptation is no less than 100 supermodels in bikinis waving at perverts in the swimming pool. This is the CIA's subordinate garage, nicknamed the toy store. Hobbs saw that Deckard Shaw didn't know much, so he happily went over and put his arm around his shoulders. Just tell your Uncle Hobbs which car you like, and he will satisfy you. Everyone in this small group knew about Deckard Shaw's mother and Andy, so he was teased all the way. The worst one was Hobbs, who had a deep grudge against him. Every time he talked about it, he would talk about me and your father, acting like an elder. But he was telling the truth, and Ron could testify to that. Hobbs and Andy had met more than once because of work. Okay, enough joking, let's get to work. Ron patted Hobbs on the shoulder and turned to face the crowd. These are vehicles seized from the drug lords and smugglers of Donghaean. Anonymous has promised me that as long as you can find them, you can pick whatever you want here and modify it however you want. But there is only one thing, that is, you have to act fast enough. I don't think Sefer has the patience to wait until we are all ready before taking action. What is this? Taiji walked to a tracked vehicle that looked like a tank. Isn't this also seized from drug dealers? Ron glanced at it and said, that's a small tank borrowed from the US military. It has 750 horsepower and is an experimental vehicle with a 6.6-liter V8 engine. There is also an M153 remote-controlled weapon station on it. But I think its firepower is still a little weak. If it is replaced with an anti-tank missile launcher, it may be better. Can you help me modify it? Anonymous assistant shouted dissatisfiedly. Where can we find anti-tank missiles for you now? Don't worry, you don't have to worry about the weapons. I've ordered takeout and it will be here soon. Ron's cell phone rang just as he finished speaking. Chapter 295 Planning and Persuasion. After rejecting Roman's 2 unreasonable requests, namely the red McLaren P1 and the orange Pagani Zonda, Roman finally chose a low-key Ford Mustang to modify. His ugly face suddenly became long, but it was not Ron's job to take care of Roman's emotions. He had more important things to do, which was to meet with Andy's girlfriend, Ms. Victoria Windsor, the mother of Deckard Shaw. They waited for Toretto to come. I'm sorry, Ms. Victoria, I didn't expect that your 2 sons were accidentally sent to jail by my unintentional actions, but don't worry, after this mission, I promise that they will be released intact and attend your wedding with Andy as free men. Ron sat opposite Victoria, in a cafe in a small alley in New York, and it was also the place where Toretto and them agreed to meet. I can't hear any apology in your words, but rather a sense of bragging. You can handle my 2 sons by yourself. Do you think you are so great? Victoria didn't touch the cup of coffee in front of her, but stared at Ron aggressively, but Ron didn't seem to be affected at all, and didn't have the slightest intention to deal with it. Instead, he ordered another donut and started eating. Although it was very rude, he was indeed hungry. From yesterday morning when he arrived in New York until now, he had only eaten 2 meals in total, and the rest of the time was spent on modifying and tuning the car. In the past, these things could be left to Toretto, and Ron could just wander around for a few rounds and start fishing, but now, he couldn't leave for a moment, because after Toretto was gone, he became the one who knew the most about cars among this group of people. On the 9th day after leaving Toretto, I miss him all the time. I dare not say I am the best, but compared with your 2 sons, I am still a little better, Ron replied without any modesty, almost writing I am the best in the world on his face. I don't know if someone will turn my experience into a movie in the future. How about calling it Agent Ron? But I feel that if it is a movie based on me, the box office will probably be much better than your 007 series. What do you think? I think you are shameless. If possible, Victoria would like to say this now, but the fact is that she can't, because not only her boyfriend is the subordinate of this little brat. If nothing unexpected happens, when her 2 sons are released, they will most likely work under Ron. It is really unwise to offend Ron now. What's more, when Ron mentioned the 007 series, he used the word you. Victoria knew that her MI6 background should also be known by Ron. I don't think a spy movie about a widow and an orphan is good. Well, even after Victoria understood the conflict of interest, she still couldn't accept it. If she could, she wouldn't be Victoria anymore. Fortunately, Ron didn't mind her attitude. Maybe Mr. Holmes will find it nice. I'm talking about Mycroft Holmes. Please tell him that it's really rude to use women to cause trouble in other countries. I'm more looking forward to him having a real showdown with me like a man, rather than hiding behind the scenes like a woman, jumping around on the stage with a puppet. No, this Sever is not from MI6. Victoria shook her head. She only worked with MI6 briefly. In fact, even MI6 can't figure out her details. Owen also came into contact with this woman at that time. I don't know what kind of magic potion she gave Owen to make him so obsessed with her. To be honest, I actually understand this reason a little bit. Ron recalled Sever's very attractive face and Chu's perfect figure, and probably understood Owen's thoughts a little bit. This is probably a story about a hot-blooded agent who acts as a licker and is then used by a goddess terrorist with ulterior motives. It's not new at all. Ring, ring, ring. The bell hanging on the door of the cafe rang, and Ron turned around. A big bald head with a strong presence. Who else could it be but Toretto? Ron, long time no see. I originally only made an appointment with Ms. Victoria, but I didn't expect you to be here too. Long time no see. Bastard. Ron punched Toretto in the chest. Do you think I can sit back and watch you do such a big thing? Well, can you tell me your reasons now? I mean the reasons for your betrayal. I only have 5 minutes now, so to make a long story short, Toretto sat next to Ron. I'm a father now. Elena gave birth to a son for me, and they were controlled by Sever together. I had no choice but to listen to them. Do you know how it feels when your son reaches out his hands to you, but you can't hug him? I think this lady must understand that feeling the most, right? The atmosphere suddenly became weird. Victoria's anger, which had almost subsided, was provoked by Toretto's words again, and she glared at Ron hatefully. Toretto was a little confused. Did I say something wrong? No, you didn't say anything wrong. Some people did something wrong, so they have to pay for their actions, Ron said to Toretto, and turned to Victoria. Let's make a deal. Your two sons go together to rescue Dom's son, and then I will give them freedom and new identities. If they are willing, I can also give them a new job. What do you think of this deal? Not very good. Victoria slammed the table heavily. Don't think I don't know what the sky eye in that woman's hand is. Deckard has been known by that woman, and she will always monitor his actions. He doesn't have any chance. This mission will only send my two sons to die. What if I tell you that from today on, Sefer will never pay attention to him again? As soon as Ron said this, the grumpy little old lady immediately shut down. What? How is this possible? What are you going to do? Just let him die. No one will focus their energy on a dead person. Ron took out a bullet from his pocket. This was a plan he had prepared before he came. Because Deckard Shaw was also on Sever's monitoring list, Ron had to leave him in the base and come here alone, but he had discussed the plan with Deckard Shaw several times. This is a blank bullet. Toretto will load it into his pistol in a while. When we go to intercept him, I will deliberately create an opportunity for you to meet Dyke alone. Then you can just shoot him and show your loyalty to your new boss. When Dyke is shot and falls, my people will immediately put him in a body bag and send him to the morgue. I don't think the Seifu team has enough manpower to send someone to check out his body, but how do you plan to get Zio to come and save my son? You know, Cypher's base is on a flying plane. Except for the time for refueling and replenishing supplies, all other times it is in the sky, flying between the blind spots of satellites and radars. This is also simple. In fact, we have already guessed the trick of this ghost flight. Since Ron proposed this plan, he must have already matured it in his mind. This is a high-quality imitation of the cross you usually carry. There is a tracker on it. When the next mission comes, you find a way to leave it on the plane. By then, the two brothers will naturally find the exact place and rescue your son. You are crazy. Victoria pounded the table angrily. You actually want my son to chase a plane in the air. How do you plan to let them chase it? Pray to God to grow a pair of wings for them. Of course, use this. Ron handed the phone to Victoria. On the screen was a strange-shaped armor. Ron felt a little painful when he handed the phone to him. This is my secret. I found a team to develop a single-soldier exoskeleton mecha. If 2 jets are added to it, it can achieve the effect of short-distance flight. I will let the plane send them to the vicinity of Cypher's plane, and then use it to fly to Cypher's plane. Before that, My hackers will open the hatch and let them in. This is a super simplified version of the exoskeleton mecha developed by Howard and others for Ron. Ron did not ask for this flying function. It was Leonard who wanted to cosplay Iron Man and added it. But in order to achieve this function, he had to give up the absolutely handsome appearance and add 2 extra wings outside the mecha. It doesn't look handsome at all, so this cosplay plan was abandoned by Leonard, but he didn't expect that it would be used in this mission. Are you sure this thing is safe? Victoria felt that she was a little behind the times. She looked at it for a long time but couldn't understand what it was. She could only ask Ron. Of course it is safe, not at all. It hasn't been tested yet. Ron can't even be sure that this thing can really make people fly. This is the most advanced technology equipment of Coltech. The US military has not yet started to equip it. Ron looked like he didn't understand this high tech, which really scared the 2 people. Okay, everything is up to you. Ding, ding. Ron's phone began to vibrate. The 4 minutes counted since Toretto was dragged and were up, but fortunately they had already discussed the plan. Then take action. Start now. On the hovering ghost plane over the United States, Sefer slapped the back of the technician's chair in frustration. Hurry up. Find me a shot. I need to know what Toretto is doing. 4 minutes ago, Toretto drove the car into a small alley for repairs on the pretext that the engine couldn't start. The open hood just blocked the camera in front of the car, and the truck that accidentally drove to the entrance of the alley just blocked the camera on the ATM across the street, which could just take pictures of the situation in the alley. Now, Sefer knew nothing about Toretto's situation, and could only vent his anger on the technicians. Hey! The truck has moved, he has unloaded the goods and is ready to leave. Hurry up, take control of the camera on the ATM across the street, I want to see what he does. Seeing the truck driver return to the driver's seat, Sefer hurriedly ordered. But before the truck left, Toretto's car hood closed again. He showed a small gadget in front of the camera, and mouthed, "Look, it's because of this thing, I have fixed it." Then hurry up. After giving Toretto his order, Sefer asked another technician, "Where's the Russian diplomat now?" Less than 2 kilometers away from the mission vehicle. Control all the cars with automatic driving systems nearby, and start the action now. The order was transmitted from the plane to various terminals through the technician's operation. The automatic driving cars that were originally in standby mode or working turned around at the same time and rushed towards the direction of the Russian diplomat at full speed. "Boss, do we need to remind the CIA Sefer here of the operation that is about to be carried out?" Hank asked worriedly after Toretto and Victoria left one after another. "In this operation, because Arthur's face looks too similar to Deckard's Shaw, there is a risk of exposure, so Ron can only leave him in the base, and Giselle is also excluded from the action list because she has had contact with Toretto's group. So Ron only brought Hank and the Smiths to New York. The driver of the truck outside just now was played by Mr. Smith. It's a pity that Sefer couldn't see anything but Toretto, otherwise he would have found that the driver of the truck was ridiculously handsome like Brad Pitt. Of course not. Do you think Hobbs is so tight-lipped? He must have said it a long time ago, but look at their preparations." Ron pointed to the TV broadcast of the diplomat's trip. "The deployment is as rubbish as shit. I even suspect that the security personnel responsible for the diplomats are Sefer's undercover," just as Ron's complaints had just ended. Bang! On the TV screen, an out-of-control taxi first knocked over the motorcycle of the police who led the way, and just as it was about to continue to attack the diplomat's convoy, it was immediately hit by the second car in the convoy. Just when he thought he had finally succeeded in protecting the diplomats. Looking up, hundreds of cars on the road were rushing towards this side like crazy beasts. The guard quickly picked up the walkie-talkie to request support, then put the car in reverse gear and quickly backed up. But the road behind was also cut off. Behind the convoy, driverless cars also controlled by hackers swarmed out from various intersections and attacked the convoy. The convoy had no choice but to turn a corner and turn into another road. At the same time, Hobbs, who had been monitoring the police channel at the cold storage base, received a signal, "Toretto is on 5th Avenue, leave now." Chapter 296 Return to Los Angeles. The cold storage door opened wide, and 5 modified sports cars came out in a line, heading towards the place where the terrorist attack took place. The car carrying the Russian diplomat had already turned into 7th Avenue. Just when the driver had just breathed a sigh of relief and thought he had escaped, there was a crisp bang sound, and the driver looked up and saw a car flying out of the parking lot on the roof and falling down, landing on the bodyguard car in front. At that moment, The driver didn't even bother to remind the car in front, and hurriedly turned the steering wheel, and the car passed the car in front at an angle. When he just drove the car to the same level as the car in front, the car in the sky hit the car in front heavily, smashing it into discus, and the people inside were obviously dead. Do you think this is the end? No, this is just the beginning. The driver looked up and was horrified to find that after the first car fell from the sky, countless cars followed its footsteps and fell from the building like raindrops. In a blink of an eye, the falling cars fell one after another on or beside the Russian diplomat's car, and then piled up together, like burying seeds, deeply burying the diplomat's bodyguard car. This scene is really spectacular. Ron, who was watching the live broadcast on his mobile phone, couldn't help but exclaim that it was exciting. This scene was not much worse than a Hollywood blockbuster. He really wanted to see what the effect would be if it was made into a movie. Anyway, it would definitely not be exciting to watch it on a mobile phone. Boss, are you sure we can just leave like this? Don't go to help Hobbs and the others? I feel that they are still a little bit struggling to deal with Toretto. Behind Ron, Hank asked hesitantly while carrying two people's luggage. Out of comradeship, sweat, but I am still a little worried about them. Don't worry, as long as they act according to the plan, then there will be no mistakes. Don't forget, the purpose of this operation was not to capture Toretto or kill Cypher. Ron took the suitcase from Hank. The main purpose of this mission is for Mayor Toretto to bring the locator back to find Cypher's location. I have a hunch that if we can't strangle this venomous snake to death in one go, he will definitely come out and make trouble next time. Then why can't we go to help Hobbs and the others? Because we are in the dark, my little fool, Ron said to Hank helplessly with the lines of a domineering president. Because we are in the dark, we can act freely, but if we go to help, the information will be exposed to Cypher. I don't think you want your wife to be dragged into the car by two masked men while she is shopping in the supermarket, right? Hank, where's my boarding pass? Hank opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but finally gave up. He took out the boarding pass and plane ticket from his pocket and handed them to Ron. Hobbs was responsible for everything that happened afterwards. Ron had already bought a plane ticket and was ready to return to Los Angeles. He had something more important to do, which was to confirm how the Metro that was going to carry the Zio brothers on the plane was prepared. At Caltech, Ron found a car and went straight to the school as soon as he got off the plane. At the same time, Hobbs also sent the final result of the operation. The good news is that after a hard fight, Toretto finally escaped from Hobbs and his team and successfully brought the locator back to the plane. The bad news is that he was taken on the plane with a nuclear bomb code box in the hands of the Russian diplomat. FXXK. Ron, FXXK, Hobbs kept cursing on the phone. What on earth do these lunatics want to do? They even dare to steal the nuclear weapons password box. Are they trying to start World War III? The password box was lost in the United States. Now no matter how much we open our mouths, we can't explain it. I heard from a guy in the Ministry of Defense that large-scale troop mobilization has begun in Russia. If we can't give them an explanation within a week, we may face the danger of war. Ron, are you listening? Of course, Ron agreed lazily. Tell Anonymous to find a way to delay for another week. Before a week, we will definitely catch Cypher and make him report. Within a week? Are you crazy? Hobbs yelled dissatisfiedly on the phone. Ron quickly held the phone away from his ear to prevent himself from continuing to be destroyed by the magic sound. The signal of the locator is too weak. It will take at least 3 days to track it. Who knows what outrageous things the crazy woman Sever will do during this period. If she launches a nuclear weapon during this period, the whole world will be over. No, you think too much, big guy? Ron turned on the external sound of his mobile phone and picked his ears. Having the code alone is not enough without nuclear weapons, so you wait and see. She will definitely target a certain military base in Russia recently, and it will be the kind of base that is easiest to attack. I suggest you pay close attention to the movements in Chechnya recently. No problem, but if you leave everything to me, what will you do? Of course I'll go and deal with Dyke and Owen's equipment. Ron looked up and saw that they had arrived at Caltech. It was time for lunch, so Ron parked the car and went straight to the cafeteria. Sure enough, the foursome was here. Hi, guys, long time no see. I guess you must have good news about mechas to tell me, right? No, on the contrary, I have bad news. Howard wiped his mouth with a napkin. There was an accident in the biological laboratory here. Accident? What accident? They injected radioactive isotopes into the mice, but the little guy bit one of the technicians and escaped, so the biological laboratory was sealed off along with several other laboratories around it. Our exoskeleton metro laboratory happens to be one of them. Ron's heart sank. How long will it take for the laboratory to reopen? Don't worry, it will be reopened at noon tomorrow at the latest. I have already modified the flight function you requested, but the flight distance is only limited to 30 kilometers, but I promise that it will fly as fast as you requested. Well, it seems that I have to wait with you. Ron sat in the empty seat of the foursome. I guess Sheldon must be with Amy, right? The three heads nodded at the same time, and Ron spread his hands helplessly. Then just ignore him. I'll go home tonight and stay overnight, and tomorrow I'll go with you to take out the mecha. Hey, how's the technician? Did he get superpowers? Rajesh waited for Ron to sit down and asked impatiently. Howard, no, he was stitched with 5 stitches and then got a tetanus shot. That's really disappointing. Why do you say that? Ron joined their second-year topic since he had nothing to do. If you were bitten by a creature contaminated by radioactive elements in the laboratory, you would definitely want to be a superhero, such as Spider-Man, Rajesh said as a matter of course. Howard said disdainfully, well, even if you are right, who doesn't want to be Rat-Man? Who wouldn't want to? You can rush around in the maze, and you can get into very small holes. And you can close restaurants with just a few jumps. And the best thing is, if I really become Rat-Man, you can be my follower, Rat Boy. Rajesh's answer, which was full of a middle school atmosphere, made Ron laugh. Regarding the superpowers you mentioned, they seem to be useless. If you want to walk through a maze, just bring a GPS. If you lose some weight, it's no problem to drill a smaller hole. Finally, if you really want to close a restaurant, I suggest you don't take a shower for a month, and then stand in front of that store. I believe it will have the same effect. That's different. Superpowers are color, don't you think, Rat Boy? Rajesh asked Howard for his opinion, and Howard objected. First of all, let me make it clear that if there really are superpowers, I will definitely not be a follower. You are the follower. Ratman will never be a follower. Ron covered his face. If he didn't need them to help him adjust the equipment tomorrow, he really wanted to pretend that he didn't know these two top-notch guys. Aren't they just superheroes? I've said them several times. There is still an unsolved bank robbery case in the New York Police Department. The photos of the suspects are Batman and Robin. Who else could it be if not Ron's masterpiece? This is a real superhero, not like the two of them, who just talk. Ron didn't want to get involved in such a mess, but he didn't expect that the war would eventually burn to him. After Rajesh and Howard argued for several times, they turned their heads to Ron. Ron, who do you think is more like a henchman? I think you both look like a cute little henchman who makes equipment for Master Batman, of course. This must not be said out loud. Ron can only suggest, if you really have to compete, do you two want to find something to compete? Leonard and I can be your referees. How about it, Leonard? Anyway, the equipment can't be taken out today, and Ron can't leave, so he doesn't mind having some fun. Okay, I don't care, but how do you plan to let them compete? Leonard was flattered by Ron's question. First of all, the first level is of course courage. An hour later, Ron returned to the restaurant with a white pottery jar. Leonard asked curiously, Ron, what's in your jar? The first and most important thing for a superhero is, of course, superhuman courage. Ron did not answer directly, but put the jar in the middle of the three people and talked. Everyone will feel fear, which is not shameful, but some people will still choose to face fear. It is the superhuman courage that deserves to be called a superhero. There's a big spider in this jar. You two just put your hands in it, and the one who takes it out last will win. How about it? Of course, Howard agreed happily, opened the jar, and put his hand in first. Come on, Rajesh, are you scared? No, but this. Rajesh was most afraid of spiders. He stared at the jar, but never put his hand in. If you don't dare to put your hand in, you will be a follower for life, Howard said provocatively. But perhaps because of Howard's stimulation, when Leonard was about to announce Rajesh's victory, Rajesh suddenly put his hand in. Well done, Rajesh, congratulations on being one step closer to being a superhero. Ron nodded approvingly. He never thought that Indians would have such courage one day. Can you tell me why you suddenly dare to do it? Simple, the spider has already crawled onto Howard's arm. Rajesh pointed, and Ron looked from his angle. Sure enough, a large bird-eating spider was crawling along Howard's sleeve. Howard let out a scream that was no less than a soprano's. Ron, help me get this thing down. Hurry up. Ron shook his head. reached out to pick up the spider and threw it into the jar and covered it with a lid. Okay, I declare that in the first round, Rajesh wins. Why? He obviously didn't keep his hand in as long as I did, because I said the one who takes his hand out the last wins, not the one who keeps his hand in the longest. Ron was unmoved and continued to maintain the original judgment. In addition, your panic performance just now greatly deducted points. If this was really a competition like America's Got Talent, I would definitely not turn on the light for you. Whereas referee Leonard, agree. Okay, what's the next item? I will definitely beat him next time. Ron took them to the gymnasium of the University of California, found an empty corner and spread the wrestling mat on the ground. The second item, of course, is a hand-to-hand combat competition. Ron said seriously, superheroes can't always carry their weapons with them. When they don't have weapons, hand-to-hand combat is an essential skill. The rules of the game are very simple. No crotch kicks, no eye digging, no throat locks, and you can do whatever you want. As long as you can make the opponent fall down and can't stand up, you will win. How about it, gentlemen? That's exactly what I want. I started taking karate courses when I was 11 years old. Rajesh, I remind you that you still have time to surrender now. Howard, wearing a red tight wrestling suit, posed in a strange pose and bluffed. No matter what the pose was, Ron was sure that it was definitely not karate. Really? It just so happens that I have also taken Pilates classes in the gym. My abdominal muscles are as sharp as Dove chocolate bars. You are definitely not my opponent. Rajesh also posed in another pose that broke Ron's imagination. If I remember correctly, Pilates seems to be a kind of yoga. Rajesh, are you sure it helps in fighting? Ron looked doubtful. Really? Rajesh made a feint of a lunge, scaring Howard back. Whatever it is, he's going to lose today. Chapter 297, Clouds Moving in All Directions. 3 hours later, Rajesh and Howard had circled the mat countless times, and exchanged at least 10,000 trash words. Leonard even fell asleep while standing for a while. Miraculously, the two men didn't touch each other. What kind of fighting is this? Ron was devastated. With his time, as long as he had enough ammunition, he could kill a division of men. Well, this might be a bit exaggerated. When Howard rolled to dodge Rajesh's feint, his calf still rubbed Rajesh's arm. Apart from that, Ron could swear that there was no other contact between the two. Oh my God, is there a worse way to spend Friday night than this? Ron screamed to the sky. Don't forget, this was your idea, Leonard complained sharply, hitting the nail on the head. You know you can't win, right? No, I know I won't lose. You're wrong. You'll fall into Ratman's mousetrap sooner or later, you pathetic idiot, Rajesh shouted. Ron had heard similar words countless times tonight, and his ears were calloused. This guy is still obsessed with the name of Ratman. Ron also saw him secretly go to the sealed laboratory to circle during his break. Ron guessed that he might want to catch the mouse and bite himself. If there is a mousetrap, isn't it for catching Ratman? Just because I express it wrong doesn't mean my opinion is wrong. You chatterbox clown, you narcissistic idiot. Seeing that a new round of mutual spraying was about to begin, Ron finally lost his patience. I'm hungry. Do you want to go eat something together, Leonard? Of course, Leonard agreed readily. Wait, Ron, Leonard, Howard shouted hurriedly, if you go out, who will judge the winner? Besides, you will miss so many wonderful quotes from superheroes. Don't you think it's a pity? No, I just feel lucky, Ron said, and walked out of the gym with Leonard, leaving only the two confused little Otacus wearing wrestling clothes, standing on the mat staring at each other. After looking at each other for a while, they began to hesitate whether to go to dinner together. Finally, Rajesh spoke first. Hey, Howard, are you hungry? A little bit. How about you? Me too, a little bit. Otherwise our duel today will end here. Of course, let's make it clear first, I won this duel. Howard was unwilling to give up his certainty on the final result of the game. Why did you win? You haven't defeated me yet. You haven't beaten me either. Yeah, so we're tied. I beat you in the previous courage contest with a score of 1-0, so I'm a superhero and you're a follower. Rajesh laughed happily. As the assistant of Ratman, what nickname do you plan to call yourself? Rat Boy or Pest Boy? You're dreaming. I'm not your assistant. I'm a superhero. Behind Ron, two people started a new round of beating around the bush, but he was too lazy to care about these two guys. Sometimes she really couldn't figure out, is someone like Sheldon Howard smart or stupid? On the one hand, he can clearly understand such complicated formulas and principles, and on the other hand, he worships this purely fictional story as if it were the Bible. Ron swears that his mother's worship of God is no more than this. But the irony is that while Sheldon laughs at Mary's religious beliefs, he wears Flash or Superman t-shirts every day, and his comics are kept in the super safe of the bank like the holy relics of the church. Isn't this a new form of religion? The next day, in New York, in the new cold storage base of the CIA, Hobbs summarized the photos of several of Cypher's men taken by the camera yesterday. First, let's take a look at the first photo. Hobbs pointed to a photo and said, "This guy is the one I met when Deckard Shaw and I were chasing Toretto today." The photo shows a white man with a big beard and a fierce face. He looks to be in his 30s. "Yes, that's him." Letty suddenly stood up and pointed at the photo and said bitterly, "I've seen this man. When I was working with Owen often came into contact with this man." "Okay." Hobbs made a note and then turned to the next photo. This was a fierce black old man with no hair, but his eyebrows and beard were completely white. "This guy looks familiar to me, but I just can't remember where I have seen him." "Does anyone of you remember him?" The genius hacker Ramsey raised his hand. "Me. The warlord in Arabia who kidnapped me and tried to get the Sky Eye system from me is this man. Although I don't know his name, I will never forget this face." Hobbs was halfway through writing in his notebook and looked up. "So, Toretto has disrupted Cypher's operations twice? It's not just once as we thought at the beginning. No wonder she would use such a cruel method this time. He wants to retaliate not only Toretto, but all of us." "You are wrong, not twice, but 3 times." The door of the conference room opened, and Ron walked in the surprised eyes of everyone. "Remember the drug lord you killed in the operation in Brazil? A drug lord who controlled the entire Brazilian drug market and shipped drugs to the United States for sale, with a deposit of only $100 million US. Don't you think it's too little? I dare say that he earns more than this a year. Even if you count the part of the activity funds he used to bribe the police and officials, he shouldn't have only that much left. I found out that his funds have been transferred back and forth through several unidentified accounts, and finally gathered together in a confidential Swiss bank account. Welcome back, Ron." Hobbs walked over and shook his hand, and handed Ron his notes. Ron took his notes and sat in the main seat without hesitation. "How is it? Did you find the signal on the signal tracker that Toretto took away?" "No, the signal is too weak. I used all means, but I haven't tracked it yet." Ramsey and Todd shook their heads together. "Well, if you haven't found it yet, you can try to look carefully in the northwest of Russia." "Northwest? Why there?" I said. "Don't you guys watch the news?" Ron turned the screen to the news page. "Just 8 hours ago, a group of Chechen militants captured an abandoned dock in northwestern Russia." Of course, this abandoned dock is just the official statement of Russia. The Chechen terrorists are very shrewd. They will never do anything insignificant, so I guess there must be something special there that can attract them. "Something special?" Hobbs lowered his head and was silent for a moment, then he showed an expression of sudden enlightenment. "You mean?" "Yes, that's right, that's what I'm talking about. That houseboat must be a special dock for the Russian military to maintain nuclear submarines. There is at least one nuclear submarine parked there now, and I'm sure there must be missiles with nuclear warheads on this nuclear submarine. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 298 Operation Polar Bear. Russia, Vladivostok, a dock that is said to have been abandoned. Although it is now occupied by a group of terrorists, the officials do not seem to be in a hurry at all. They have been negotiating with them politely, and they do not seem to be in a hurry at all. You know, this is Russia, a place where people are irritable, and they dare to go out and fight with bears after drinking a bottle of vodka. Even when rescuing a hostage, they never give the terrorists any face, and they just attack them directly, killing the hostages and terrorists together. You say they suddenly become kind? I think you are joking. The only explanation is that there is something here that can make the Russian government afraid. Except for nuclear weapons, Ron really can't think of any other possibility. This is the fact. This is a Type 885 attack nuclear submarine. No wonder the Russian military has not attacked here by force, but has an ambiguous attitude. They must be afraid that the terrorists will fight to the death. Hobbs saw the full picture of the submarine with a telescope and immediately judged its model based on his rich experience. "I told you so." Ron rolled his eyes. Behind them, in addition to the Toretto family who were brought to participate in the mission, Ron's capable men were also present. Only the old, weak, sick and disabled were left to look after Los Angeles. Remember, guys, although this moment may not be recorded in future history books, I can guarantee that this is definitely a critical moment that can change the direction of human civilization. Our every move will determine what the future world will look like. If that thing really launches a nuclear bomb, then no matter where its target is, we will have to face the Third World War. Believe me, you don't want to see this happen. Don't worry, boss. They are just helping the ignorant minions. We can easily deal with them. Mr. Smith was the first to stand up and echoed. "Of course I'm not worried about those rubbish," Ron said, not taking the terrorists seriously at all. He pointed to the sky seriously and said, "What I'm really worried about is this. I don't know what Sefer will do, but they will definitely be our most difficult opponent." Ron looked at his watch and estimated that Toretto should be about to take action. He waved his hand and said, "Let's go." He was the first to get into the tarpaulin behind the pickup truck. Under the tarpaulin was the experimental machine of Ron's new exoskeleton mecha. Before going to New York, Ron wanted to give the mecha to the Zio brothers, but Howard only had this set of mecha that could be used in actual combat, so he simply disassembled the aircraft and gave it to the two brothers, and used the mecha himself. Ron got in the car, and his men behind him also got in their own cars. The convoy slowly drove to their scheduled ambush site on the snow. Only the Hobbs and Toretto families were left here. "I'm not suitable for this place. My lifestyle is too different from here. The girls know me and they know what I look like, but I just went to the bathroom so quickly that I almost couldn't recognize my own XX, Roman complained in her low voice. O'Connor teased, "Is it because your clothes are too thick and your XX is too small, so you can't find it?" "Hey. Who are you talking about? I'm not like what you said. If you have the guts, let's take off our pants and compare to see whose is bigger. How about the loser wash the other's underwear for a month?" "Quiet." Hobbs stopped the farce behind him and stared at the road ahead nervously. "It's Toretto. He's here. God, why is he alone? Are these terrorists also in the same group as Sefer?" "I'm afraid not, sir." O'Connor put away his playfulness and returned to seriousness. He picked up another telescope and lay down next to Hobbs. "Look at the dock. There is no intention of welcoming them, but a little alert. They also put up roadblocks. I guess he plans to drive straight in. He must be crazy. I must stop him." Letty got up, but was immediately taken back to the snow pile by O'Connor. "Toretto never does anything without confidence. He must have some ideas, such as buzz." Everyone heard a low-frequency buzzing sound, and an invisible wave spread out from Toretto's car. Within a radius of 150 meters, all electrical equipment was destroyed. Even the half-raised roadblocks controlled by electricity were lowered, and the gate became a smooth road in seconds. It was the pulse weapon that Toretto snatched from Hobbs that caused all this. "He's in. He's in. We have to stop him now," Roman shouted and was about to run to the car, but was pulled back by Hobbs. "Don't forget, our car is also electrically ignited. If he comes over here again now, our car will be stranded right where it is." Hobbs turned to Taj. "I've shown you all the technical data of the pulse weapon. How many times do you think he can use it?" "It can only be used once at most. In order to maintain its speed, the car cannot be recharged, so it can only be charged with its own batteries. As for his car, even if it is filled with batteries, it can only be used once at most." "Okay, then we'll wait until the next time he does it." Hobbs nodded and picked up the walkie-talkie. "Did you hear that? Ron, what do you say?" "Then do as you say. We'll set off later." After Ron finished speaking, he asked Hank to park the car on the side of the road, took off his coat, and got into the mecha. Boom boom boom. Hank patted the outer shell of the mech. "How is it, boss?" "Everything is okay." Ron started the mech and moved his upper limbs on the car, but did not get off the car, because there was a power cord on the neck of the mech connected to the car to continue charging, except that the power was too seriously consumed by the weather. "There is only 20 minutes of action time left. There is no problem. Currently, the battery with the highest energy density known to mankind is the lithium battery, which is seriously affected by the temperature, especially in this icy and snowy Russia, where the power is lost by a full 1/3. Ron sighed helplessly. "Arthur will drive and take me there later, and you will find a place to snipe by yourself. Make sure that no one affects my work. Understand?" "Understood." As soon as Hank finished speaking, Toretto's car had already driven to the bottom of the nuclear submarine that was hoisted for maintenance. A military helicopter flew up from the dock and rushed towards him fiercely. The anti-tank missiles on both sides of the helicopter were clearly lined up and ready to go at any time. If it hits a tank, it will be destroyed, not to mention Toretto's car, which was only reinforced with bulletproof glass. Just when everyone was worried about Toretto, buzz the pulse weapon started again. Chapter 299, Operation Polar Bear Finale. Invisible ripples spread out in all directions. The helicopter engine that had just flown into the sky suddenly shut down in the air. The propeller blades turned slower and slower until the aircraft lost lift and fell heavily to the ground. Boom, the helicopter exploded, and at the same time, the propeller blades of the nuclear submarine began to rotate. FXXK. Can anyone explain to me why a nuclear submarine without people actually started moving? Why? Ron yelled in the mecha, and his voice was heard by everyone on the channel through the communicator. Sivir just restarted the submarine. She suppressed the command system. Oh my god. This submarine is equipped with a remote control system, Teja yelled in the intercom. No wonder they want to keep this military base secret. This should be their new technology. What should we do now? Ron, Hobbs asked. He wants to take the nuclear submarine away. Of course we have to stop it. We must not let it enter the water. Ron thought for a moment and said, now we will split into two teams. Ramsey, come and get on my car. I will take you to the control room and see if we can regain control of the submarine through the control room. Hobbs, you take people to escort Taj onto the submarine and remove the chip in the submarine so that they can't launch missiles at will. Now, start the action immediately. Ramsey drove a white all-terrain vehicle and immediately came to the other side of the dock, where Ron's team was. As soon as he parked the car, he was dragged into the car by Mrs. Smith. Ron's mecha patted the body of the car. Okay, everyone is here now, let's set off immediately. The two cars rushed to the dock from the hillside, one after the other, while Hank climbed onto a small dirt slope, squinted one eye, and glanced at the sentry at the entrance of the dock. Boom, the sentry at the entrance of the dock had just raised his gun and fired a bullet at Ron's car before he was lifted into the air. Well done, Hank, keep it up. Now you are responsible for covering Ramsey's car, and I will take care of the rest. Arthur was responsible for driving, and Ron's mecha mounted a large Gatling gun on the top of the pickup truck's cab. Boys, the carnival party has begun. As soon as he finished speaking, blue flames began to emerge from the muzzle of the Gatling gun, and the multiple barrels of the gun body began to rotate rapidly. As we all know, the Gatling gun is a rotary machine gun. In theory, it can just enjoy the bonus of Ron's sharpshooter skills. In fact, it is exactly the case. The bullets fired by the Gatling gun seemed to have eyes, chasing the terrorists running around everywhere, and the 12.7mm caliber high-powered bullets also broke the bodies of each terrorist who was shot into several pieces, leaving no possibility of survival. Of course, the terrorists stationed in the dock were not fools. After the power was restored, they immediately raised the roadblock. Seeing that the car was about to hit, Arthur slammed on the brakes and suddenly turned the steering wheel to the right. Squeak. The tires rubbed against the ground, making a harsh sound. The whole car swung sideways and continued to slide towards the roadblock in front. With a bang, it hit it. However, after the brakes in front slowed down, the kinetic energy had been reduced a lot. The collision did not cause any harm to Arthur and Ron. But on the contrary, it also made it impossible for Ron's Gatling machine gun to continue to aim. In the dock, the muzzles of countless terrorists had already aimed at the car. Excited expressions surged on these men who were on the edge of a knife. Now, as long as they gently pulled the trigger, they could avenge the brothers who had just died. Although there was no affection between them, no one would refuse the pleasure of revenge. Unfortunately, they still miscalculated. Just before they pulled the trigger, Ron and Arthur seemed to have made an appointment. Without waiting for the car to stop, Arthur opened the door and jumped out. At the same time, Ron's Angel exoskeleton experimental mech also unplugged the charging cable behind his head and jumped out of the car holding the Gatling gun. Swoosh! Two terrorists leaned out from two different windows, and a rocket with a long tail flame shot towards the car, detonating the car, while the other attacked Ron's mech. But when the fire bullet was still flying in the air, Ron slightly adjusted the direction of the muzzle. A string of bullets directly shot the flying rocket to pieces. Well done, boss. Even Arthur, who is always arrogant, couldn't help but cheer loudly for Ron's wonderful shooting this time. You know, that was a flying fire bullet, and the speed was so fast that it was difficult to aim. If that was all, Arthur might still try to shoot it, but the condition was that he had the most suitable precision rifle in his hand. But what did Ron use? That's a Gatling gun. And it's in the air. Using a Gatling gun, which is not very accurate, and in the air, with no support, to shoot at a high-speed flying target, the difficulty can be imagined. Of course, that's why I'm the boss, Ron said proudly. At this time, Ramsey's car, which was following them, also drove to the roadblock and stopped. Thanks to Ron and his friends, the terrorists' firepower was mainly concentrated on them, and the Smiths' car did not suffer much damage. Arthur, the three of you escort Ramsey into the control room now, and leave all the other bastards to me. After Ron gave the order, the three of them immediately pulled Ramsey and ran towards the control room. Ron himself stood where he was, letting the terrorists' bullets continue to shoot at the shell of the mecha, making a clanging sound, while he fired back at all the terrorists who shot at him with his machine gun. What the hell is this monster? The terrorists were going crazy. It was the first time they saw a monster like the Archangel that could not be penetrated by bullets and rockets. It was even more difficult to deal with than the tanks they faced on the battlefield. Of course, this does not mean that Ron's mecha is stronger than a tank. In fact, Ron's mecha can only block bullets at most, but it cannot block rockets. But this thing is more flexible than a tank. Ron is not a fool. He will at least dodge when he sees a rocket, and he will not stand there stupidly for them to hide him. The mecha itself has almost the same flexibility as the human body, so he can even roll on the ground to avoid rockets. But the good times did not last long. No matter how long the ammunition chain is, it will eventually run out. The Gatling machine gun is powerful and has a fast firing rate, so the ammunition box will soon be empty. Click. The crisp sound was particularly harsh on the suddenly quiet battlefield. He's out of bullets. Come on. Let's take this opportunity to kill him. Rifles are useless. Use grenades, anti-tank grenades, quick. Seeing that Ron's machine gun was empty, the terrorists started to move again, covering each other with shooting and approaching Ron. However, Ron was not panicked at all. He slapped a storage compartment on the leg of the mecha, and a high-frequency vibration saber popped out. If the bullets are out, then use the knife. After saying that, the upper body of the mecha leaned down, put some force on the ground with its toes, and then the whole mecha was ejected like an arrow from a string. Swish. The sound of the saber cutting through the flesh, the blade became extremely sharp under the high-frequency vibration. Ron could hardly feel the obstruction of the flesh to the blade, and he was already cut in half like a terrorist with a gun. Monster. This is a monster, the terrorists screamed and fired a series of bullets at Ron with an AK rifle, but it had no effect except making the shell of the mecha ding-ding. Ron simply put away his saber, sprinted forward 2 steps, and kicked the terrorist in the stomach. Bang! The terrorist was kicked out by the overly powerful kick of the mecha, and crashed into the wall behind him, causing cracks on the wall, and the man had already died. How about it, dear? Is the exoskeleton designed by Howard, who I personally instructed you to design, to your taste? A pleasant female voice suddenly sounded in the communicator inside the mecha. It turned out to be Peggy, whom Ron had not seen for a long time. But Ron was not surprised. As long as Peggy wanted to, there was no system in the world that she could not hack into. Well, I thought Sheldon had a sudden inspiration. Thank you, Peggy, but I still have to remind you, you haven't been discovered, have you? Of course not. I didn't even leave home. I just asked a killer named Root to replace Howard's blueprint while he was asleep. That idiot thought he had perfected the blueprint in his dream. Only in front of Ron would Peggy show off her high IQ so unscrupulously, because she knew that Ron would not hurt her, and he always held the maximum tolerance attitude towards her monster IQ with more sins than blessings. Root? It sounds like a very unfamiliar name. It seems that I haven't paid attention to the underground world for too long. I didn't even know that there was such a person, Ron murmured as he fought back against the terrorists around him with a gun. No, I don't recommend you to contact too many such messy people on the dark web. They are usually very resourceful and cruel. I don't want you to get into trouble. Don't worry, they know nothing about me, but I have all their information. For example, I hacked into the computer of this Root and turned on her camera. She is a pretty woman. Okay, then I won't care about you. Ron used AK to clear the terrorists in the last window and made an OK gesture to Arthur in the control room. If you have time recently, can you help me upgrade the battery of this mecha? I only played for 20 minutes and the power ran out. Is the mecha powerful? Of course it is powerful, but unfortunately, the battery life is too short. It's like exchanging Ron's body with Leonard, but the physical strength remains unchanged. Even if Leonard turns into an electric motor, his poor physical strength will still make him fall at a disadvantage in the war with Penny and be pressed hard. Of course. It is not ruled out that Leonard likes this. Impossible. Before we find a new way to store energy, the only way to meet your requirements is to develop small-scale nuclear fission technology. But with the current level of technological development, don't even think about it for at least 30 years, Peggy ruthlessly punctured Ron's beautiful fantasy. Okay, that's fine. So, you can take a break now, or go have a cup of coffee, and let me contact the two flying men. Okay, I'll transfer you there. After a burst of meaningless noise, the communicator connected to Deckard's Shaw's communicator. Along with Deckard's scolding, there was also the sound of gunfire. Ron frowned. Dyke, how are you guys doing now? Bang, bang, bang. After a 3-point gunshot, Deckard finally replied, tell Toretto that his son has been rescued by me, but we didn't find Sever on the plane. She disappeared like a ghost. Okay, I only have one request for you, and that is to bring little Dom back safely. Don't worry. Hearing Deckard's reply, Ron nodded with relief. Deckard was the type of person who was ruthless and didn't talk much, but as long as he said it, he would definitely do it, except for topics like beating himself up. Ron took out a firework from the storage compartment and lit it. With a bang, the fireworks flew up to the sky and exploded in the air. At the same time, on another hillside, the bearded man who had a sniper rifle on Toretto's car was still provoking him with a smug look on his face. He had already locked Hobbs and his group who were trying to rush into the submarine with a sniper rifle. Dom, you tell me, should I kill your proud brother O'Connor first, or kill your other girlfriend first so that she can accompany your son's biological mother? I think one of them is a biological mother and the other is a stepmother. If they meet in heaven, there will definitely be a lot of topics to talk about you. Have you thought about it? Which one do you want me to shoot first? Toretto, who had originally wrinkled his face into a bigger melon, finally showed a long-lost smile on his face after seeing the fireworks in the sky. No, you can't kill any of them, because I will kill you now. Bang! I don't know when the wrench in Toretto's hand became his weapon, and he hit the bearded man's head and made him bleed. No. You can't do this to me. Sefer will kill your son. Do you want your son to live? The bearded man rolled to the ground, staring at the wrench in Toretto's hand, and backed away in fear. Sefer. Toretto is crazy. Kill his son quickly, boss. Say something. Unfortunately, no matter how the bearded man called out, Sefer didn't respond at all. He began to realize that something was wrong, and pleaded with Toretto. Dom, calm down, listen to me, everything before was Sefer's order. Really? Then let me tell you. Toretto raised the wrench high, and then swung it down heavily, knocking the bearded man's head bloody. Everything now is my own order. Chapter 300 Hobbs, the touching IQ. The bearded man's head was originally a standard oval, but in the blink of an eye, Toretto used the wrench to correct it into a standard square. What a repairman's skill. Tisk. Ron would like to call Toretto the second best repairman in the world, because Ron himself is the best. Compared with Toretto, he is better at repairing people. Not to mention knocking the head into a square. Even if you want a hexagon, Ron can knock it out for you. But even if I want to demonstrate it now, it's useless because of the lack of props. Under the fierce attack of Ron's mecha, the terrorists finally lost the courage to resist and fled in all directions. Or they went back to find weapons that could deal with Ron's mecha. Ron didn't believe that the terrorist organization that could seize such a secret base from the Russian army would be repelled by such a simple means. As it turned out, it was indeed the case. Ron's radar reflected that a huge vibration source was approaching. If nothing unexpected happened, it should be a tank. Ramsey, how long will it take you to finish this? Ron felt a little overwhelmed and began to urge, if we don't hurry up, we will attract more troops. I don't want to face a tank platoon alone. Tanks have always been called the king of land warfare. One of the fundamental reasons is that they are really troublesome and difficult to kill. What's more, there are not just one tanks. Judging from the radar reaction, there are 4 tanks. According to the organization of the U.S. military, it is definitely a platoon. This is not the kind of team that Owen put together last time. These people are probably professionally trained tankmen. No matter how strong Ron's mecha is, it is not strong enough to withstand tank shells. Give me another 10 minutes. I can regain control of the submarine immediately. 10 minutes? The remaining power of the mecha is enough to support 8 minutes. I will give you another 10 minutes. You might as well come and collect my body. Ron rolled his eyes and could only pin his hopes on Hobbs's group. Hobbs, how are things going over there? Very good. We have entered the submarine and are looking for the control chip. Once we find the control chip and pull it out, we can fix it. The noises on Hobbs' side were even more chaotic. In addition to the sound of talking and gunfire, there was also the sound of fists hitting flesh, especially the last click. Ron clearly heard someone's bones breaking. Of course, it was definitely not Hobbs's bones that were broken. Ron could only mourn for the poor terrorist in his heart. Looking for the chip? Are you in the control room now? Yes, but there are too many instruments here and they are too complicated. Teiji can't figure out how to get that damn thing out. Damn it, Hobbs killed another terrorist with one punch and blocked the door like a furious King Kong. The terrorists were restricted by the orders from above and were afraid of damaging the equipment in the submarine, so they hesitated and dared not shoot. They can only send them one after another like the Gordals saving their grandfather, turning a good gunfight into something as exciting and interesting as UFC. Of course, this excitement is only relative. If it is mainly a one-sided slaughter, it is simply wonderful. Hobbs can always kill the newcomers who dare to provoke him with a new posture. Wait? Who asked you to bring the chip back? What do we need that thing for? Ron was extremely embarrassed by Hobbs's sudden poor IQ. Do you have grenades? Throw the grenades on the console and blow up the entire cockpit. Even if Sefer crawls over along the network cable, he can't continue to play the submarine. It seems to be like this. Dubs touched his big bald head and suddenly realized. Then go quickly. I won't say more to you. I'm in trouble again. Ron quickly cut off the communication because the vibration group on the radar was getting closer and closer to him. The first tank had passed the corner of the wall, and the thick barrel was aimed at Ron's direction. Ron looked at the black muzzle, and his soul was filled with fear. He seemed to have seen the scene of the shell shooting out of the barrel, blowing himself and the mecha into pieces. He kicked the ground hard. Boom, the tank fired. At the moment the gunfire sprayed out of the muzzle, the shell had already flown to Ron's feet, almost brushing the legs of the mecha and hitting the wall behind. Ron just avoided it. But before Ron could breathe a sigh of relief, the second tank passed the first tank that had already fired and extended its barrel from the back. At the same time, the radar showed that the other two tanks were passing through the back of the house next to Ron and quickly detoured to his rear. MD. These terrorists don't know tactics. At this time, Ron's Angel X mecha had begun to fall. Although the name is the same as Gundam, Ron deeply understands that this is not a Gundam, but just an exoskeleton mecha that looks a bit similar. Ron doesn't think it can be like his Gundam, and take the shells as if nothing happened. When the second tank aimed, Ron seized the opportunity and suddenly pressed on the wall. The mecha in the air was immediately ejected in the opposite direction, under the influence of the reaction force. Just as Ron changed direction, a shell flew over where he was just now, less than half a meter away from Ron's mecha. It can be said that he escaped death. However, Ron promised that this was the last time, and he had thought of a way to break the deadlock. The mecha stabbed the saber towards the wall on the other side, and then quickly turned off the vibration. The saber pierced the wall as easily as piercing a layer of window paper, and then stuck on it. Ron used the saber as the force point, grabbed the handle with both hands and swung hard, then his body flew into the air, completed a beautiful flip in the air, and jumped onto the roof of the 3-story building with his hands. The firing range of the tank turret is limited. Because it is mainly aimed at ground targets, the upward elevation angle is not very large, not to mention that for old tanks like this one used by terrorists, the elevation angle is only 45 degrees at most. Ron was on the rooftop, and it could be said that he was invincible. Next, he only needed to destroy the 4 tanks one by one to evacuate safely. Boom, a sharp explosion came from Ron's communicator, followed by Hobbs' happy voice. Ron, it's just as you said, after I blew up the control cabin, the submarine really stopped, and our mission is accomplished. Very good, now take your people to the control room to meet Ramsey and others, and then start evacuating. Arthur will meet you for me. Retreat. Wait, what are you going to do? I was hit by 2 shells in a row. Of course I have to fight back, otherwise how can I survive in the future? Ron gritted his teeth and said angrily. Hank, knock off their tracks for me. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.